2, 1. You're on the air.
Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for being here for tonight's town board meeting, and thank you all at home for watching. Before we get started, as always, we're going to have the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. So would everybody please rise? And Councilwoman McDonough, would you lead us? And also tonight, ladies and gentlemen, let me just state that we had two gentlemen from the community that passed away over the past few days, and I just wanted to mention who they were. It's Dr. Delamere, a longtime chiropractor in Mahopac. I don't know how many years he was in practice for, but multiple years, and he was very involved in the community, as his wife Kathleen Delamere as well. So Dr. Delamere sadly passed away upstate, and we're going to keep him and his family in our thoughts and prayers. And also Councilman Lombardi's father passed away yesterday, Osvaldo M. Lombardi. What a gentleman he was. I had the privilege of knowing him and spoke with him on many different occasions, and he's a very, very great, honorable man, very gentle and very kind, and he loved his community. He loved his family dearly, and his family loved him dearly. And Frank Lombardi lost his dad yesterday after a lengthy illness. So what I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to dedicate the town board meeting in the memory of both Dr. Delamere and Mr. Osvaldo Lombardi, Frank's dad. So it's dedicated in their memory. And let's please all keep their family in our thoughts and prayers. It's been a very difficult day, as you could imagine, for Frank and his family. And just keep them in their thoughts and prayers, and keep Mr. Lombardi, who passed away as well, in your thoughts and prayers. So thank you for that. And Susie, would you please lead us? Thanks, sir. Okay, once again, thank you all for attending tonight's town board meeting. Appreciate it. And that you're all at home for watching this meeting as well. The date is Wednesday, July 14th, 2021. And prior to coming out here for executive session, for the public meeting, we met in executive session with Police Chief Anthony Hoffman on a contractual matter for a traffic and safety detail. Councilman Borelli and Councilman Shannell updated the town board on PBA contract negotiations, and also Councilwoman McDonough was going to update the town board on CSEA contract negotiations, but we weren't able to do that as the meeting on the two first items took us right to 7 o'clock. So we'll pick that up next Wednesday, Sue, yes. On the 21st. You'll update the town board on the CSEA matters. For the record, all town board members are present, with the exception of Councilman Lombardi, who is not with us tonight due to the passing of his dad. So the first item on the agenda tonight is a public hearing on a proposed local law to amend the code of the town of Carmel to add Chapter 60 to opt out of allowing cannabis retail dispensaries and on-site consumption sites under New York State Cannabis Law, Article Number 4. So at this time, I'd like to ask the town clerk, Ann Spofford, who's with us here as well, to please read the notice of the public hearing.
Notice is hereby given that the town board of the town of Carmel will conduct a public hearing at the Town Hall, 60 McAlpin Avenue, Mahopac, New York, 10541, on Wednesday, July 14th, 2021, at 7 p.m. or as soon thereafter that evening as possible, on a proposed local law enacting Chapter 60 of the Code of the Town of Carmel entitled New York State Cannabis Law Opt-Out Legislation as follows. Proposed local law, if adopted tonight, it would be number 1 of the year 2021. A local law to amend the Code of the Town of Carmel to add Chapter 60 to opt out of allowing cannabis retail dispensaries and on-site consumption sites under New York State Cannabis Law, Article 4. Section 1, Authority. This chapter is adopted pursuant to the authority of Article 2, Section 10 of the New York State Municipal Home Rule Law and New York State Cannabis Law, Section 131.
Section 2, Enactment of Chapter 60 of Town of Carmel Town Code entitled New York State Cannabis Law Opt-Out Legislation. Chapter 60 of the Code of Town of Carmel entitled New York State Cannabis Law Opt-Out Legislation is hereby enacted as follows. Section 60-1, Legislative Intent. It is the intent of this local law for the Town of Carmel to opt out of the following, opt out of allowing cannabis retail dispensaries and on-site cannabis consumption site within the Town of Carmel that would be otherwise allowed under New York State Cannabis Law Article 4. Section 60-2, Authority. This local law is adopted pursuant to the New York State Cannabis Law, Section 131, which expressly authorizes the town board to adopt a local law requesting the Cannabis Control Board to prohibit the establishment of cannabis retail dispensary licenses and/or on-site consumption licenses within the jurisdiction of the Town of Carmel and is subject to a permissive referendum, the procedure of which is governed by New York Municipal Home Rule Law, Section 24. Section 60-3, Local Opt-Out. The Town Board of the Town of Carmel hereby opts out of allowing cannabis retail dispensaries and on-site cannabis consumption sites from being established and operated within the town's jurisdiction. Section 60-4, Severability. If any part of or provision of this local law or the application thereof to any person or firm or corporation or circumstance shall adjudged invalid or unconstitutional by any court of competent jurisdiction, such judgment shall be confined in its operation to the part of provision or application directly involved in the controversy in which judgment shall have been rendered and shall not affect or impair the validity of the remainder of this local law or the application thereof of other persons, firm, corporation, or circumstance, and the Town Board of the Town of Carmel hereby declares that it would have passed this local law or the remainder thereof had such invalid application or invalid provision been apparent. Section 60-5, Permissive Referendum on Petition. This local law is subject to a referendum on petition in accordance with the New York State Cannabis Law, Section 131, and the procedure outlined in the New York Municipal Home Rule Law, Section 24. Section 60-6, Effective Date. This local law shall take effect immediately upon filing in the office of the Secretary of the State. At said public hearing, all interested persons shall be heard on subject thereof. The Town Board will make every effort to assure that the public hearing is accessible to persons with disabilities. Anyone requiring special assistance and/or reasonable accommodations should contact the Town Clerk. By order of the Town Board of the Town of Carmel and Spofford Town Clerk.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ann, Bob, and Susie for the reading of the notice of the public hearing. Did anybody sign up? There was a sign-up sheet up here to speak at the public hearing. Let me go get it.
I'll get it.
Okay, so the first speaker is Scott Santafanti. Scott, come on up. I believe we did, right? Yeah. Hang on one second, Scott. Ann, did we make the motion to open the public hearing?
It's not necessary, but you can go ahead and do it.
Okay, I just need a motion to open the public hearing. So moved by Councilwoman McDonough, seconded by Councilman Shannon. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Scott, go ahead.
Good evening. I'm here tonight just to kind of understand basically what you just read. I mean, I'm not a legal type of person. I live here. My kids are here. I work here. I support businesses here. So I'm kind of the person that you're kind of appealing to within in our county or in the Carmel. So just to help me understand, I don't know if I can ask questions and you can respond. This is the first time I've done this. Is that okay?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So have already decided to opt out of this cannabis law?
No.
Okay.
A formal vote by resolution hasn't been taken yet.
Okay, but it is drafted that it will be opted out. There is a motion that's drafted that you would be deciding upon to opt out of the program. Is that correct?
Greg, let me get the floor.
I mean, that's what it says here, opt out.
When you close the public hearing, if somebody makes a motion to adopt the local law, then we'll have a vote. You don't have to.
So something is drafted to opt out of being able to provide retail or any sort of thing within the town of Carmel. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So what we do is, with most public hearings, we listen to all of the public.
Yes.
And if we still have questions or we want to keep it open, we can keep it open.
Okay.
Or if we heard from the public and it's one way or another, then they were proactive, which they do in most of the public hearings. They make the law, so if we want to act upon it, we can. So we can either act upon it or we can keep it open.
Okay.
So
I
what-
appreciate-
So hopefully that answers.
Yeah, I-
the
This
question.
might answer your question a little better. So what we have to do is, New York State is mandating that each local jurisdiction either opt out
Yes.
or you'll be open to the cannabis.
And you have till to
So
December,
we don't-
you have till
right.
December of
So we don't have an option to
2021.
opt in, we have an option to opt out.
Okay.
So that's why it's written the way it's written.
Okay.
And then we
so-
vote on it.
So
and
you
decide.
have either or. So you have one to opt in and you have one to opt out.
Well,
Is
we
that
don't have one
correct?
to opt in, or you're automatically
Okay,
opted
so
in
you
if
only
you
have
don't
one
opt out.
drafted right now to opt out. Is
Well,
that
if you
correct?
don't opt out, you're
If
automatically
you don't
drafted in.
opt out, you're automatically in.
So
Okay,
there's
thank
only
you.
one choice to
Right.
do here.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Right.
I do appreciate that. Hopefully, like I said, you guys are where you are and I am where I'm at. So thank you for hearing me. I do want to take in consideration of the storefronts that we have within the town of Carmel. I do want to take in consideration of the laws that are governed with the state and by county to be able to do the retails. Deciding it in one public hearing, I think, would do it an injustice. I think that my opinion, and I've others that are in the town, that to keep it open for other people to kind of come forward. I'd like to see some sort of statistics of other towns that have happened in other smaller areas in Massachusetts, in the Berkshires area, that have basically, it's helped them grow their economy. It's also had them as a destination place to where people come up who actually drive, because we really don't have a train system here, so they have to have transportation. It is a 21 years or older to be able to do it cannabis recreationally. But I would like to see some sort of statistics on what it's done for some of the towns, because having some of these storefronts that are empty could very well be little coffee shops, or could be places. It could be a destination where someone comes in to fulfill their prescriptions, or to use it, or to come and purchase it. And then be able to take advantage of our town, be able to go into our shops, or maybe go into the restaurants, because we have some really obviously great restaurants in the area. So I just would like to ask the board just to consider keeping it open for more than one hearing, so that it actually can get it out to a little bit more of a broader base of the town, just to have consideration and just to make sure that we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's, because there is an economic situation here that can help with a lot of the taxes. Because I'll tell you, I'm a taxpayer. It's a lot of money, and I do understand we are a little bit of a bedroom community of the city. I get that as well. But if we can help the local entrepreneurs and restaurateurs in the area to drive some sort of, I don't want to say tourism, but some sort of traffic that would allow it to have them prosper a little bit more, I think it would help everyone in the town. And I know we only get a certain percentage of that taxes, as most of it goes to the state. I get it. But a little bit of something is obviously a lot more than nothing. So that's just what I came to say this evening. I'm going to do a little research, but I would like to see some statistics. How many liquor stores we have in this town? How many bars? Because those are having a little less of a security aspect to them, providing recreational drinking, compared to what a marijuana distributor would have to have as security and being able to register. You have to show IDs when you walk in. You have to show ID when you purchase. So there are certain fail-safe situations that people have to come in and present identification on what they're doing.
I just wanted to make one comment. What you're saying, as far as I know, the New York State is putting together a cannabis commission, and they're going to come up with all those things you just spoke about. How old you have to be is obviously probably going to be 21. But as far as what type of products they can sell, none of that's been discussed yet.
Okay.
Other than that, New York State has allowed for recreational loose marijuana, and it's up to the local jurisdictions whether we want to opt into it. My feeling is we're opting into something we really don't know fully about right now. Like you said, you don't know the statistics, and you don't know what type of products are going to be available. It could be edibles, could be gummies, could be things,
So is
drafted after, kids' candy. I don't know. Right now, it's not known.
But is that something that the local jurisdiction can put a restriction on?
I don't know.
So we have a lot of unknowns that we don't know right now.
A lot of unknowns.
So that's kind of why the reason I'm here stating that maybe we should table this to an open discussion at a later time so where there is more information. We do have till December 2021. No?
Yeah.
Is the information wrong? If the information's wrong, please correct me.
No,
I'm sorry.
you do. You do. You have until December
Okay,
31st.
I got somebody shaking their head. I'm just
No,
asking.
in order for this to be put on the November ballot for a public referendum,
Okay.
we have to act on this before July 19th.
Oh, so we're,
July 19th, we have to make a decision, either we're going to opt out or we're going to opt in.
Okay.
Because for the residents of the community would have to submit a petition
Okay.
with 1,278 signatures on it.
Okay.
So that represents 10% of the last gubernatorial election
Mm-hmm.
was 12,278 people from the town of Carmel, voters, voted in the governor's election 2 years ago. So we need 10% of that in signatures. So 10% of the 12,278 is 1,278 signatures have to be submitted within 45 days of tonight's, if the town board votes to opt out tonight, then it goes to the public, and the public can sign a petition. They have to submit it to the town clerk within 45 days of the public hearing and where the board voted to opt
okay.
out.
And excuse my ignorance because I don't know how these things work.
This is,
So
no,
I
this
appreciate
is,
you explaining this to me.
yeah, this is all
You know.
new. And what Councilman Chanel was saying, they're asking us to opt out of something or opt in. The state is asking us to make a decision when they themselves have not come up with the regulations. So they're asking us to do something, but we don't know what the regulations are going to be. That's scary for anything.
Sure.
And that's why we want to have this public hearing. You know, we got a bunch of stuff from the Office of Cannabis Management, which I'm sure you can get online. It's the New York State of Opportunity Office of Cannabis Management. It explains the entire, what they overview, per se.
Okay.
You know, so unfortunately, there's a lot of information that we don't know about because the state doesn't know.
And is this the first evening that it's become a public hearing for this
Yes.
The
topic?
public hearing is tonight,
So it wasn't
yes.
last month, it's only now?
Correct.
With a 5-day window to be able to make a decision?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, the way the law is written is it makes more sense to initially opt out if there is any uncertainty, because the town can then backtrack and allow the sites at any time.
So you can opt back into the
Yes,
situation?
but if
Yes.
you opt in, you can't opt out.
You can never opt
You
out.
can never opt out.
Okay.
So the town, at some point, at any point going forward, if we do decide to opt out tonight, and I'm not sure that that's what the vote outcome is going to be, the town can always opt in at any point.
By the end of the year of
No,
2021?
no,
No,
at any
anytime.
point going
At any
forward.
time.
Future
Anytime,
boards,
yeah.
future town boards, if they can opt back, they can opt in. But once you stay in, you can never opt out.
Okay.
So I think a lot more needs to be learned. The Cannabis Control Board hasn't even been assembled yet. The state has not put together a Cannabis Control Board yet. When they do, that control board is going to then set up the regulations and the rules pertaining to dispensaries and pertaining to consumption sites, which are essentially lounges.
Right.
So that hasn't been done yet. So
Has it-
I think we need to learn a lot as well. The board does, and the community needs to learn a lot about it
Absolutely.
as well. So
The information is key. And that's-
Information is key.
And I think
Details
this
is key.
dialogue is important because we have to understand where you're coming from and what is the abilities that happen and what, as a group of people that think that it might be a nice
And I'm
economic.
kind of surprised that there's not more people here. to tell you the
And-
truth.
I don't know many people knew about it. That's the thing. It's really getting the word out. And I don't know, we got to work on that, I think.
Scott, there's an administrative structure that has to be established that's going to set the parameters and the regulations to manage all of this. And that hasn't even been done yet.
Okay.
So we're being asked, and the state is notifying towns that they have to opt in or opt out by a certain date when they don't even have a structure set up yet with rules and regulations pertaining to dispensaries.
I totally
So
understand about
all,
uncertainty, for sure.
so all we're talking about tonight, this is all we're discussing, because the rest of the marijuana legislation or cannabis legislation is already law. So the only thing that this board is discussing with the community and acting on is the dispensaries and the consumption lounges, the consumption point. That's it. That's all that we're going to be opting out on. The rest is law already.
Okay.
The rest is law. So the only thing that's the towns are going to determine is whether or not to stay in or opt out.
But can opt back in at any time?
Yes,
Absolutely.
if they
Yes.
opt out, they can opt in at any time.
Okay.
Just a point of clarity. All the towns are in until they opt out.
Right.
Right.
The reason for the scheduling that we put before the board now is if the board decides to opt out of one or both, and your proposed legislation is both the on-site consumption locations and the dispensaries, then if the petition is filed timely, you can get your referendum as a prop on the November ballot. You could wait till December, and if there's a petition, you're going to have to pay for a special election, which most of the towns would rather not do. One of the bases for opting out that I've seen other municipalities do is they just want to put it in the hands of the people. If you've opted out and it goes on the ballot, then the people who come out, okay, and vote at the general election in November, assuming there's a petition for referendum, are going to be able to decide the issue all by themselves instead of 5
Right.
town board members, okay?
Which is how it should be.
That's how it should
Right.
be.
And that's a lot of the logic that I'm seeing pervading in other towns. But it requires you to opt out first. And there are 9 categories of licenses that Office of Cannabis Management is going to issue. The localities have control over exactly 2 of them, and these are the only 2. Everything else is going to be decided exclusively by the state. And when you get into your master plan, if somehow you decide not to opt out, or there's a referendum, or you opt back in by this board or a future board repealing the law, then you can legislate where they go in certain zones, okay? You just can't legislate them out if you haven't opted out.
Right.
And that's
That's
what I was
important.
talking to you. I didn't mean to be rude to you. I never do that when somebody's speaking, but you brought up a couple of points that I wanted to clarify with them, which he just did.
Okay.
And the bottom line is this: whatever this board does tonight, you have the ability to change come this election. You need 10%, if I'm correct. You check me, I don't know if I'm correct. 10% of the amount of voters that voted 4 years ago in the last gubernatorial election. And I believe that will bring you somewhere between 500 and 600 signatures.
No, I have the number. I have the number.
1,275.
What's the number?
1,278.
Is that so
So that's the
8,000
number.
people voted?
Oh, 12,000 people voted.
12,278.
12,278
So you
people
need
voted.
1,300 signatures to put this decision in the people's hands.
All right, wonderful. I thank you for your time.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
You're welcome, thank you. Okay, next is Tom Anakari.
Good evening. All right, I know that technically I'm not a resident here anymore. I do have businesses that I work with here, but the time that I've spent here, I love this town so much, that's why I'm legislatively involved. Anyway, a couple of facts, just for your wisdom to make a decision. When towns opt out, and I've done a lot of reading on this, when towns opt out and then see the next town over fixing sidewalks, adding amenities, improving schools, etc., you feel a little left out because the tax revenue that comes from this is awesome. Even though the town gets a fraction of the sales tax, improved property taxes will also rise. And the other problem is if we opt out and we wait till next year for, to see what happens in Albany, there are a finite amount of licenses that are allowed in the state of New York, which means certain business people could lose out if those licenses are all gobbled up, which, believe me, they'll probably get gobbled up. Crime has actually been seen to be lower near dispensaries due to the extra security. They create jobs. The dispensaries bring back depressed areas because usually they're forced into buildings they would prefer not to have, so they fix them up. Just as Scott was saying, a lot of empty buildings around here, we could, get something out of that. We know 2 things about this. Number one, there is heavy security. More so than any liquor store or tobacco shop that I've ever seen. There's no way, I think, that a minor would even get into a store, let alone purchase anything, unless some wayward adult decides to purchase for them. So I don't think parents really need to be worrying about that. We need to deal with the issue that we have now, okay? But number two, most importantly, it will provide revenue to the town as well for the community far beyond dollars. Over the last couple of years, adult use cannabis in the state of Massachusetts, which was the first state on the East Coast to go that way, have eclipsed more than $1 billion in gross sales. They will also be attracting multi-state operators to come in and open businesses. Now imagine you have something that entices companies to come in here and develop business. Theory Wellness, which is probably the town's best known retail cannabis shop, in the second quarter alone reported gross sales in excess of $10 million. The co-founder told the select board on July 5th that Theory would mail a check to the town for $309,218, fulfilling its obligation to pay community impact fees to the town of 3% of its sales, as it had agreed. Now, I don't know what that is, but still, it's a nice check to get every 3 months. Okay, let's look at the sales tax for a second. 8.38% sales tax in this town, of which the town only gets 0.38%. But times $10 million, that's over $39,000 every 3 months, and that's just one shop. That's just sales tax. I don't know about this other fee thing, but that's just sales tax. You get 4 or 5 of these shops in town, and you start piling up money that we could use because we have a master plan on the horizon that's going to need as much money as we can find for infrastructure. Annualized, that's from one shop, it's probably around $200,000 a year. Okay, that's not chump change. The idea of cannabis businesses, and pardon the reference to growing it, allowing cannabis businesses into the town is a seed that when planted, when it's planted, it will offer so much reward to the community, not just tax revenue either. Many of those businesses are the most likely to donate to local charities, even the ones that are committed to opioid crises. They put money into the community. From my experience with the chamber, we're always got our hand out asking for donations. These people have cash they need to get rid of and write off as tax. Okay, so they tend to be also very neighborly. From what I've read, I don't see the downside. More than half the people who participated on the Halston Media Zoom chat, and by the way, kudos to Brett Freeman for putting that together, more than half voted to approve dispensaries. As for knowing the state regulations, yet I can imagine I can imagine that they will be less than the current regulations now on medical dispensaries. So my only concern, like I said, there's a finite amount of licenses for the state, and I wouldn't want to see any of our local entrepreneurs miss out. So I think your concerns are valid. You know, you don't know what you're dealing with yet, but I think it's going to be okay. That's basically how I look at it.
Okay. All right, thank you, Tom.
Good points.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, is there anyone else that concludes the residents that signed up? Scott? Yep. You signed up for the noise ordinance. All right, take it off that one. Okay. All right, so you're off that one.
Yeah, how's
All right.
everybody doing?
Good, Scott.
My condolences to Frank for his dad. Terrible. And I'm up here. I'm not up here to fight with anybody this time.
Hold this a little closer to you so they hear you at home.
Yeah. So I'm not here to fight with anybody at all. It's I've been passionate about this a long time. I'm 13 and a half years sober. I don't drink. I don't do drugs. This isn't some kind of I hope I can get pot more easily kind of thing. It's already easy enough to get it anyway. But this is about the town. And I think there's valid points with revenue. Although sales tax revenue, as you know, the county in Putnam does not share their portion with the town, which is its own shame and something I hope to change if I'm on the county legislature. But you know, the law as it stands requires union workers at these dispensaries. That's good paying jobs for a lot of people, if we have them. That, you know, we have great businesses in town, restaurants, nail salons, all this stuff, but none of these, or most of them, don't require union workers. And as Tom said, you know, there's cash. I mean, right now, because of the way this is legislated federally, there is a lot of cash, and there's cash, and because of that, there's a lot of security. Security goes for a couple reasons. One, whenever you have a lot of cash, you want to make sure nobody's going to come in, break in, and steal the cash. So you have security to protect the business. But the way that these laws are legislated and the way they work in other states and municipalities is it's security to keep people out, mostly minors or people who are not allowed to purchase cannabis. When the discussion was going on to legalize or not to legalize, I know that there was a lot of talk, Councilman Chanel, about gummies and how that can be dangerous because a child can have a gummy and not know it. That's just parenting, right? I mean, that's a bad parent if they let their kids get their pot. The same way that the bad parent lets their kid get their gun. So, you know, I don't think this board is advocating that we should prevent gun sales in Carmel because that's totally separate. Mike, Councilman Barilli, as you were saying, it should be up to the people. Now, I think that you've all been pretty clear you're going to vote to opt out. And this is not just theater, it's an ongoing. I agree that people should speak, and I hope that all of you who have to get signatures to be sitting where you are will help get signatures to get the referendum on the ballot. You know, not in favor, not against, but if it's on the ballot in November, people can vote, and if they vote overwhelmingly against, the people spoke. If they vote for it, the people spoke. I do think, though, that, you know, while there's a deadline in order to get the petitions, Carmel has a big opportunity. Putnam Valley, Somers, Yorktown, these are all towns that have already voted to opt out. The first past the post wins. If we decide not to opt out, if we have dispensaries here, this is where the license will go. This is where the money will go. We have a hard time bringing people who are not from here. And there's other arguments. I know that our sheriff has argued against legalization in general because he's worried about people driving while high, intoxicated. The states that have the highest vehicular fatalities are Montana, Alaska, and North Dakota. Not because they're the most drinkers or drug users, it's because there's the most driving. They're the biggest states that require the most. The number one cause of car accidents is driving. And if we're not going to stop people from smoking or consuming cannabis. I do wish that your vote was separately between the use, in the parlors and the dispensaries. But we're not going to have more people driving high if we have it here. We're just going to have more people driving farther, high or not. And that, to me, is a much greater risk for public health. I mean, legality doesn't stop people from doing things. We have to have laws. But right here in Mapac, from as soon as it's not too cold outside until it is too cold outside, we have fireworks. Right? We had a house burned down a couple weeks ago from illegal fireworks. We know that people will get things that are not legal here. It's not going to stop residents from getting cannabis. It will just hurt our town to not benefit from it. And we see that, we'll see that here. You can see it like the other Scott said in Massachusetts. I mean, people are driving from Putnam County, from New York. They're driving up and they're going to Massachusetts to spend their money somewhere else. And there's a lot of fear-mongering and there's a lot of legitimate concerns. But if you get your kids not to smoke cigarettes, if you get them not to drink underage, you'll get them not to smoke pot. And they're not going to get it from the dispensary. In fact, I think if you go into a high school now, you talk to most kids, they'll tell you it's easier to get it's easier to get marijuana than alcohol because, it's just available. So a lot of the negatives I don't think are stopped by opting out, but all of the positives are stopped by opting out. So,
Good point. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Scott, I just want to, just read this to the public so they fully understand. If a petition is filed by the voters, a proposition for the approval of the local opt-out law must be submitted at the next general election not less than 60 days after the filing of such petition in order for it to be on the November 2nd, 2021 ballot. The local law must be adopted no later than July 19th, 2021, and a petition must be filed no later than Thursday, September 2nd, 2021. In other words, July 19th, 2021 is the last day for municipality can adopt the local law. 45 days for voters to file a petition. September 2nd is the last day for voters to file a petition. At least 60 days must pass before the proposition can appear on a ballot. So November 2nd, 2021, the general election, the proposition will be on the ballot. So that's a timeline that has to be followed.
Oh, no, I wasn't criticizing the timeline. I was just saying that I hope, because you're all experiencing getting signatures, that you'll help get signatures to make sure that it's on the ballot.
Well, I just wanted to educate everybody further,
Yeah.
for you here and those at home, that if a petition is going to be filed, that's the timeline for it.
The
It
only
has
other-
to be submitted to the town clerk.
The only other thing I wanted to say, and I forgot to say, so thanks for saying my name before that. One of the things that localities can do, towns can do, is they can restrict the locations of the licensees. And so while we may not benefit that much from sales tax revenue, which looks good on paper for those that don't really understand where the sales tax revenue goes, by restricting the licensees to only Putnam County or to Carmel, you're guaranteeing or securing that money is going to stay right here, and those people are then going to spend their own money. So I do think whether it's now or next year or in 2 years, eventually there's going to be dispensaries in Carmel. There will be at some point. And I hope that when they are, that's one restriction that you do. You keep the money here and not have somebody from Westchester or the city get their license, open up shop here, and then bring the money out again. So, all right, thanks again.
Great. Thanks, Scott. Okay, is there anyone here?
Addendum to what I said, I just found out something.
What?
Just very quickly. I just remember the impact fee that I mentioned in Massachusetts. I've just found out that municipalities are starting to drop it because they feel it's an unfair burden on businesses that are not contributing negatively to the communities. Now, that's really awesome. What I might suggest you consider is do your own community impact fee. Not 3%, maybe 1 or 2. And until you see if they are really part of the community. And then you could drop that too. But at least you'll get some money, and you could put that money to use to local charities that are trying to fight drug abuse, et cetera, or any kind of thing. But just a suggestion.
All right. Thanks, Tom. Thanks. Thank you. So is there anyone that would like to speak that hasn't signed up? Yes, Jean? Jean, yep.
Hi, Jean Hopper, Mayapack. I'm sorry I came a little late. I didn't see the sign-up sheet, and I thank you for letting me speak. I just have a few questions. I learned a lot listening to the previous speakers. The information that we're still waiting from the state, who provides that to the town here? How are you getting that information? How is that being disseminated to you?
The Office of Cannabis Management
Okay.
would provide that further information that we would like to see.
I think, is that the paperwork that's there?
There
I
is a
think
packet
so.
up there with some information, but...
Yeah, I'll take a look.
But the
Thank
Office
you.
of Cannabis Management hasn't been established yet in New York State, so it's going to be some time before that
All right.
committee is up and running, where they're going to establish the rules and regulations.
And someone answered the question, I think, Greg, thank you. It was the opt-out if licensing is still available. If we opt out, we're always saying we can always opt in. That's only if the licensing is still available. I guess that's what, by a demographic, by a, okay.
I was going to say, we don't know.
We don't know that
Yeah,
yet.
Jean
We don't-
had something again that
Something we don't
the
have that number,
Office
that
of
answer.
Cannabis Management.
But there is some sort of parameter to the licensing.
We would assume.
We're-
Right.
But there's nothing,
There
the
will
state
be.
has not
We just don't.
given
Okay.
us nothing.
Only because when we're saying we can opt out, we can always opt in. That's not necessarily true, right? If those licensing parameters are taken, then we're out of luck.
I would venture to say if the state is going to make a ton of money on this, they will make room for other
A licensing.
licenses.
Yeah, that makes sense. And opting in, does that mean a definite dispensary in our town? I mean, what if there's companies that will say, you know what, we're going to skip Mayapack, we're going to skip Carmel, we may go somewhere else. I mean, does a license, if we opt in, is there a storefront ready to go? Is somebody knocking down our door to come here? Or we don't know that. I mean, we could opt in and
we don't
they
know
could
that.
pass us by, correct?
You don't know that. They're
We
going to
don't-
go by, they're going to see what they have in areas,
Right.
driving distances. And
So they may say no. Even if we opt in, we may not get one. It's a possibility.
Gene,
Yes?
I think at 9% going to the state of sales revenue, they're going to issue as many licenses as they
Right,
can.
okay,
and
I'm
they
just
will.
curious.
You know, because this is a
It's
cash
a
grab
money- it's a
for
cash
the state, is exactly what it is.
Right, okay. And the dispensaries, do they also fill like prescriptions for medicinal marijuana?
No, I don't believe they do. No, I could be wrong, but
I'm
I
not
think
sure. Does anybody know that?
medicinal, I think medicinal,
They do.
I believe medicinal, and that's something I wanted to bring up after the public hearing. I believe medicinal dispensaries are separate from the recreational dispensaries. And it is not in this, the Office of Cannabis Management does not detail the medicinal at all.
So again, it's unknown. So it could be the same building. It could be one that's providing medicinal marijuana and recreational.
Yeah,
adult.
I don't know.
don't
Yeah,
know.
we don't know. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, way too many unknowns.
Okay, well, I like Scott, not a big drinker, don't really, do it for parties at home, and folks drink, and don't partake of any other drugs, so, but I would feel the same way. I think it's a business opportunity, it's an opportunity for growth for our town, so I'm for it. Thanks, guys, thanks for letting me speak.
Thanks, Gene. Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Yes, ma'am? I didn't sign up. You can come up now. I just need your name.
Good evening. I'm Joan Goldberg, 30-plus year resident of the town of Carmel. I'm a retired town administrator, and I also have a vacation home in the Berkshires, where it feels like there's a dispensary on every other corner. It has not raised crime in the area. We still have one cop in the community where I live, although the dispensaries have their own forces. And for a girls' weekend, I actually took 4 women, and we went just to see what it was like. And they gave us a tour, and they gave us a tour of the different products that they sold. They sold edibles, they sell, I didn't know there were all different strains of marijuana. You can get some that it energizes you, there's some that calms you down. I mean, it was quite entertaining, and it was fun. They didn't think it was fun because we didn't buy that much, but... So I am here tonight to say that I absolutely support this in our town. Now, in Massachusetts, there's a ton of dispensaries, but there's no lounges. I have yet to see a place where people can hang out, and, I'm not sure I would like to see that here, but I think the dispensaries are an absolute good thing, and I probably have a different take on it from what you've heard tonight. It's all about the safety for me. The horror stories I've heard from some of my friends about kids who have had bad experiences with pot is because the pot was laced with something that they didn't know. They got it from some guy on the corner or whatever. The dispensaries are regulated. You know how much THC is in them. In Massachusetts, there's a limit on the gummies of 5% because in the beginning they had some people being hospitalized because they would take a little and, I don't feel anything, and then take more and then wind up not feeling kind of loopy and winding up in the ER. So for me, it's an important thing to have that regulation. You guys have a great financial team here between you, supervisor, and your controller. You guys do a great job with the finances. Every little bit helps. The complaints that I hear in the town are all about taxes. So, all that, anything that you could arrange to have people, dispensaries brought in. Also, I don't know if we have any vacant land, In Massachusetts, they're taking over abandoned paper mills and turning them into grow houses. What a great use to put those properties back on the tax roll. Here, if we had agriculture, if we had places where they could grow the pot, to me, that's a win-win. You're not putting more, you're not putting up more houses, you're not putting more kids in the schools, you're bringing business into the town, and absolutely it brings people in. And what I've seen in Massachusetts, people don't go in, buy pot, and light up in the car. They don't do that. They bring it wherever they're going. It's just like when you go to the liquor store. You don't get in the car and open the bottle of wine. You go home with it. So I'm absolutely in support of it. And, I know the situation where you guys are in, but I don't think I think what's going to happen is if we opt out and we don't get back in time, you're going to miss an opportunity. You're going to miss a window. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Joan.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else that would like to speak? Somebody had their hand up over here. James, come on up.
Good evening, everyone. As you know, I'm James Carmody from the Hamlet of Carmel. I hear that there are many legal unknowns about the state's new law. I hope tonight I can provide some clarity as to the health properties of cannabis. And so I'd like you to know that most of the ideas we have of marijuana have come from the 1940s and 50s from hysteria and not much grounded science because there wasn't much study on the plant back in the day. But now it's 2021 and there has been serious scientific study of the plant cannabis and the marijuana that we are hoping to legalize or not. And what the scientists found is after the age of 25, smoking marijuana has little to no effect on people's cognitive abilities. It is essentially just another item to use in life, like eating a sandwich or drinking soda. And we know that we'll have control over at least 2 licenses if we were to stay in the state's legal framework. And I echo the concerns of our neighbor Joan about the safety of regulated legal marijuana. Therefore, I think it's wise for the town to stay in the legal marijuana opt-in system, as well as to adopt a local code requiring that one be 25 or older to use recreational marijuana in the town of Carmel. This way, at least when we issue licenses under our control, we'll be able to ensure it's only going to people who are able to healthfully and safely use the drug. Finally, there's also the matter of Cbd oil, which is another way to use the cannabis plant, and it's not harmful in moderate concentrations. In fact, it can be very therapeutic and almost medicinal, even without a prescription. The issue is with highly concentrated Cbd oil, and for that reason, because of the risk of liver damage, I think the town should also adopt a local regulation over its licenses under its control that will limit the amount of concentration allowed for Cbd oil so that's in a safe limit that does not damage one's liver. This would be the most responsible choice for the town of Carmel, as it uses our powers under the state's marijuana law to better protect our residents, while also guaranteeing we'd have the businesses to come in, providing revenue for us, and we'd be able to, by regulating our controlled licenses, up to safety used in Carmel that might not be apparent anywhere else. So there's some health properties of cannabis that I hope can inform your decision.
Great. Thanks, James.
Thank you, James.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Come on up at this time. Okay, there being none, I need a motion to close the public hearing.
Make a motion? Close the public meeting? So move.
Closing the public hearing?
Everyone spoke? Anybody
Yeah,
else want to
everybody
speak?
spoke that wanted to speak. You made a motion?
Made a motion. Yep.
I need a second. Second on the motion? Susie?
Yeah, so keep it open or close it? To
Close, motion to close the public hearing.
Okay, second.
Okay, motion made by Councilman Shannell, seconded by Councilwoman McDonough to close the public hearing. Roll call vote?
Councilman Shannell?
Yes.
Councilman Borelli?
No.
To close the public hearing? Councilwoman McDonough?
Close
To close the public hearing.
Yeah, no?
You want-
No.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
And Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried. It's 3 yes and 1 no to close. Okay, so at this time, Councilman Shannell, would you read 1A, please, on the agenda? It's to consider a resolution making a secret determination in regard to the proposed local law number, what's the number, Ann? 1, local law number 1 of the year 2021, enacting Chapter 60 to opt out of allowing cannabis retail dispensaries and on-site consumption sites under New York State Cannabis Law, Article 4. Would you read 1A, please?
I'm looking for it. I don't have it in my packet. I have 2A.
You want mine?
Sure, thank you.
You have it, Bob?
Yes, do now. Resolution number 1A. Resolution making C-Corps determination in regards local law number 1 of 2021, Town of Carmel, Town Code, Chapter 60. Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel hereby determines that the enactment of Chapter 60 to opt out of the issuance of licenses for cannabis retail dispensaries and on-site cannabis consumption locations is a Type 2 action under SECOR, and no further review is necessary. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Okay, offered by Councilman Channel, seconded by Councilwoman McDonough. Roll call vote.
Councilman Channel?
Yes.
Councilman Borelli?
I've watched this 20-some-odd years ago with OTB. You can buy a drink or a bottle of whiskey every 1,000 feet in this town. This public hearing is a farce because the only people here, people have spoken for it, not against it. This town board's mind was made up a long time ago. Why we had a public hearing is only because the law said we had to. What was my choice?
Seeker only. This is just seeker.
Just secret?
Seeker.
Well, it's for both. I'm against,
So no for seeker, Mike?
I'm no to everything.
All right.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes, but before I vote, what I want to say, I disagree that my mind was not made up. I've taken into effect, there's been a lot of people that has contacted me offline for and against. My issue with this law is that there is absolutely no information from the state, and I'm not going to put the town residents into something that may be horrific. It also may be great. We don't know. There's too many unknowns. I spoke with a woman today, again, regarding, I'm very interested in the medical marijuana part of it. Okay, but again, this part of the law does not even address that. So that's something that I myself further is going to look into, as well as continuing to look into when the state decides to come out with their information, continuously review it. And I want to thank everybody for coming up and speaking, and I hope you don't mind, I took some of your phone numbers so I can ask questions and get some input from the people who spoke today. But as of right now, I'm going to vote yes, because there is not enough information, and I'm just afraid what the state may or may not do. There's just not enough information for me.
I'm kind of surprised that New York State hasn't put this all together before they
should have.
had us
They
come
should
to a
have.
decision whether we want to opt in or opt out. I mean, there's a lot of questions. I understand a lot of concerns for people that want to benefit from it, from the financial aspect of it. There is definitely a benefit. There is definitely a benefit for opening up businesses, new businesses here, people coming here from different towns, but there's just too many unknowns. You don't know how many licenses we're going to get, where we're going to put them, how can we regulate them. Can we just have dispensaries and not on-site premises? These are just a lot of questions that are unanswered, and I can't agree to something that I don't have all the information to.
Yeah.
And I
right, again,
applaud
this-
everyone for coming here and voicing their
Again,
opinion. I
this-
wish there was
this-
more people, but
Bob, this is just seeker.
right.
So we're on seeker right now.
Yeah.
We haven't voted on the actual opting
No,
out
no,
yet.
but we just wanted to give
Okay.
our
I don't wanna waste my
information.
opinion.
Is there going to be another meeting that we could talk at? No.
We just, from what I understand, we just closed the public hearing. Right, Annie?
You just
We did.
You just got in?
But if you would like to
I
speak,
was watching.
Oh, would you like to say something?
Yeah, possible.
sure.
Do you
Be
want
my
to
guest.
finish this roll call vote? for
Yeah,
this
Annie
vote?
wants to finish
We're on the
the roll.
secret
Oh, all right, we have to finish the roll call
One
vote.
more vote. Supervisor Schmidt.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carried. Okay. Before we vote on this, did you want to address the board? Okay, come on up. We'll allow it. We did close the public hearing, but we'll allow you to speak.
Okay. I personally,
I just,
Closer to the speaker so they could hear you at home.
Your name, ma'am?
Anita Olivier. Okay. I personally have a medical marijuana card due to a stroke that I had a long time ago. And I have to go down to Yonkers or to Newburgh to get whatever I have to get. So I buy in bulk. So I'm getting like $400 or $500 worth of stuff when I go because it's aggravating to go back and forth. So if there was something closer, I would do it. It would be so much easier. And then when my son was watching at home too, he was like, make sure that you stress the tax, this tax benefit for the town. I told him to come with me, but of course he didn't come because he knows much more about that. But that's what he's like screaming, saying like, say that, say that, say that. Me, personally, it would be better if it was closer, and I know, I mean, pull up New York State, look through the you guys probably be able to have, it probably goes by town or state, what town or county. I'm sure there's a lot of people in the area that have medical marijuana cards. It would be so much easier if we had it closer for people. That's all I want to say.
Yeah. Thank you, Anita.
Sure.
Thank you.
And a lot of people did ask, like, people ask me, like, oh, you have a medical marijuana card? What doctor did you use? Where do you go? And you'd be surprised. And there's a lot of older people, too, that ask me about it, too, so.
Yeah.
Because they need it.
I don't know how it just ended up in Yonkers, and I don't know how they determined where to put the medical marijuana dispensary.
There's one in White Plains. There's 18 and that's medical marijuana dispensaries. One in White Plains, one in Yonkers, and Newburgh, Cureleaf and Newburgh. But then they spread out from there.
Yeah.
But those are the closest ones I know of. So that's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Anita. Board, before we move forward with the vote on this, Carmel Police Chief Anthony Hoffman has a letter. He couldn't be here with us this evening, but he wanted me to read this into the record, if I may. Okay, this is the statement from Chief Anthony Hoffman, Town of Carmel Police Department, regarding a local law to opt out of allowing retail cannabis dispensaries and on-site consumption in the Town of Carmel. As the Chief of Police for the Town of Carmel, I am supportive of opting out of allowing cannabis retail dispensaries and on-site consumption sites in our town. At this time, we have more questions than answers as to exactly how cannabis will be regulated in local municipalities in New York State. With the very recent passing of legislation legalizing recreational marijuana in New York, the infrastructure is not nearly yet in place for us to ensure one of the most important duties of local government and our local police departments, which is the safety of the public we are sworn to serve. To be forced into a decision regarding allowing cannabis dispensaries and on-site consumption without all the facts available is dangerously premature. As a police officer, I am aware of the negative impact that marijuana use has had on impaired driving. Second to alcohol, marijuana is the most common drug detected in motor vehicle fatalities and is equal to alcohol as an impairing factor in all fatal accidents. As a police chief, I must dedicate personnel and resources at the taxpayers' expense to combat impaired driving and to help keep our roads safe. Currently, the testing capabilities for our officers to detect marijuana for impaired drivers are not available as they are for those drivers that are impaired by alcohol. Additionally, with recreational marijuana legalization, we will see an increase in the amount of unregulated marijuana and the connected criminality it brings that will further tax the resources of local municipalities and law enforcement. Allowing retail cannabis dispensaries and on-site consumption in the Town of Carmel will simply bring more marijuana and its negative aspects, as such, increased impaired driving to our community. We should not be forced as a town to allow this to proceed without, at the very least, further discussion and development of infrastructure to effectively and safely deal with the overall legalization of marijuana in New York State. Thank you, Chief Anthony Hoffman. So you just wanted me to read this into the record. Okay. So at this time, Board, you are free to, 1B on the agenda, you are free to consider the motion to enact the law. So I would need a motion, a second to enact the law, and then a roll call vote. So I need a motion to consider to enact the law.
Explain yourself again.
Yeah, it's, so 1B on the agenda, Mike, this is to consider a motion to enact the law.
To accept it.
To accept it, to accept the
And
law.
if that doesn't pass, then you go to opt out.
Right.
Okay.
This is the opt-out. Yeah,
This is the opt
motion
out.
is
This is the opt out.
Yes, yes. This,
Accept the law to opt out.
yes, a motion to enact the law, to accept the law to opt out. This is the opt-out vote.
As published
So,
and pre-filed with the...
as noticed and published. Correct. Okay. That's,
I'll get through
it's
them all.
1B. No,
There
Susie,
is nothing on there.
there's nothing, no,
There's
it's
no-
just a motion to
You just have
consider
make a
to
motion.
enact the
I
law.
offer the local law.
I make a motion to
Enact
enact the law.
As noticed and
as
published.
noticed and published. So you made a motion to enact the law as noticed and published. I need a second.
A second.
Seconded by Councilman Shannell. Roll call vote.
Councilman Channel.
Yes.
Councilman Borelli.
No?
Councilwoman McDonough. Supervisor Schmidt.
Yes. To opt out. So the motion carries to opt out. Okay, so that completes the public hearing number 1 for this evening. We do have a second public hearing, and this is on a proposed local law amending Chapter 104 of the Code of the Town of Carmel entitled Noise. So at this time, Town Clerk, would you please read the notice of the public hearing for number 2?
Notice is hereby given that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel will conduct a public hearing at the Town Hall, 60 McAlpin Avenue, Mahopac, New York, 10541, on Wednesday, July 14th, 2021, at 7 o'clock p.m. or as soon thereafter that evening as possible, on a proposed local law amending Chapter 104 of the Code of the Town of Carmel entitled Noise as follows. Proposed local law, if adopted tonight, it will be local law number 2 of the year 2021, a local law amending Chapter 104 of the Code of the Town of Carmel entitled Noise. Be it enacted by the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, County of Putnam, State of New York as follows. Section 1, Authority. This chapter is adopted pursuant to the authority of Article 2, Section 10 of the New York State Municipal Home Rule Law.
Section 2. Section 2, Amendment of Chapter 104-104, Sub 4C, and Section 104-6, and Section 104-12B. Chapter 104 of the current Code of the Town of Carmel entitled Noise, specifically Section 104-4C, is hereby amended to read as follows. Applications. Each applicant for a permit to use and operate a sound device, loudspeaker, amplifier, or apparatus in, upon, rear, or adjacent to any public street or public or place shall file a written note application with the town clerk no later than 5 days before the date on which such sound device, loudspeaker, amplifier, or apparatus is to be used or operated. The office of the town clerk is in discretion may also accept an application less than 5 days prior to the date for which permit is sought, provided that the clerk determines that sufficient notice can be provided pursuant to Section 104-6C of this chapter. Such application shall be on forms furnished by the town clerk and shall describe the name and address of the applicant, the name of the address of the owner of the premises, and specific location of the premises or place for which the permit is sought, the day and hours during such use and operation is proposed, the make or type and other identification of sound devices, loudspeaker, amplifier, or apparatus to be used, the volume of sound which is proposed to be used, measured by decibels or other than efficient method or measuring sound, and such other information as may be necessary for the carrying out of the provisions of this article. The town clerk may require proof of standing and/or authority from any such applicant or the submission of an application for a permit pursuant to this chapter.
Yep, Chapter 104 of the current Code of the Town of Carmel, entitled Noise, specifically Section 104-6, is hereby amended to read as follows. Section 104-6, Permit Fees, Duration of Specific Zoning Districts, Exemptions. A, the town clerk shall collect a fee for each permit for the use and operation of sound devices, loudspeakers, amplifiers, and/or apparatus as defined herein. B, each permit issued by the town clerk shall be valid for a period not to exceed 3 calendar days. C, prior to the issuance of such permit under this article, the applicant shall provide proof to the town clerk that the owner of each improved property located in 100 feet of any boundary of the applicant's parcel for which the permit is sought hereunder has been notified in writing of the pending application under this article. Such proof shall be by means of sworn affidavit provided in form to the applicant by the town clerk and/or by any other means of notice that the town board may otherwise direct by resolution. D, duration of permits in specific zoning districts. 1, subsequent to the issuance of any permit by the clerk pursuant to this article, for any property located in a residential R-zone district. No additional permit shall be issued for the same parcel of property, regardless of ownership thereof, prior to 30 calendar days having elapsed since the expiration of the prior permit issue for said parcel or property. 2, subsequent to the issuance of any permit by the clerk pursuant to this article for any property located in a zone designated as other than residential R, including commercial C-zoned district and/or commercial business park CPP zone district, no additional permit shall be issued for the same parcel or property, regardless of ownership thereof, prior to 5 calendar days having elapsed since the expiration of the prior permit issued for said parcel or property. E, no fee shall be charged to or collected from any bureau or department of the United States government, the state of New York, the county of Putnam, or the town of Carmel. F, the fee referenced in subsection A hereunder shall be established annually by the Town of Carmel Town Board and shall be in file in the office of the town clerk.
Chapter 104 of the current code of the Town of Carmel entitled Noise, specifically Section 104-12B, is hereby amended to read as follows. Standards in determining unnecessary noise. No person shall make, continue, or cause to permit to be made verbally or mechanically any unnecessary noise. An unnecessary noise shall mean any excessive or unusual loud sound or any sound which either annoys, disturbs, injured, or endangers the comfort, repose, health, peace, and safety of any other person or persons, and/or which causes injury to an animal life or damages to property or businesses. Standards to be considered in determining whether unnecessary noise exists include, but are not limited to, the following: the volume of the noise, the intensity of the noise, whether the nature of the noise is usual or unusual, whether the origin of the noise is natural or unnatural, the volume and intensity of the background noise, if any, the proximity of the noise to residential sleeping facilities, the nature and the zoning district of the area which the noise emanates, the time of day or night the noise occurs, the time duration of the noise, whether the sound source is temporary, whether the noise is continuous or impulsive, the presence of discrete tones. Section 3, Home Rule. Nothing in this law is intended or shall be construed to limit the home rule authority of the town on the state law, to limit the town's discretion in setting fees and charges in connection with any applications required town approval. Section 4, Servability. In any part or provision of this local law or the application thereof to any person or circumstances be adjudicated invalid by any court of competent jurisdiction, such judgment shall be confined in its operation to the part or provision or application directly involved in the controversy, in which judgment shall have been rendered and shall not affect or impair the validity of the remainder of this local law or the application thereof to other persons or circumstances. And the Town Board of the Town of Carmel hereby declares that it would have passed this local law or the remainder thereof had such invalid application or an invalid provision been apparent. Section 5, Effective Date. This local law shall take effect immediately upon the filing of the office of the Secretary of the State in accordance with Section 27 of the Municipal Home Rule Law. At said public hearing, all interested persons shall be heard on the subject thereof. The Town Board will make every effort to assure that the public hearing is accessible to persons with disabilities. Anyone requiring special assistance and/or reasonable accommodations should contact the Town Clerk. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Or the notice of hearing. I offer the notice of hearing.
No, this is just to open the public hearing.
Okay.
Motion to open public hearing.
So moved.
Second by Susie. Okay.
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye.
Long day, long night.
Long night. So the public hearing is open. This is for the noise ordinance. We're doing this to help our local business community. I'm sorry. This is the public hearing is now open for the noise ordinance amendments. Would anybody like to speak on that? Come on up at this time. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is April Daly, and I live in Mahopac. So I have a question with regards to what can be done with regarding cars and motorcycles revving their engines. So, for example, some cars are equipped with exhaust systems that result in very loud, abrupt noises that are intense. unnatural, impulsive, and also has the presence of discrete tones, both high and low frequencies. And in particular, repeat offenders. I mean, I don't think it's an exaggeration when you're exposed to this every day, throughout the day, feels like an assault. And I also understand there's a sort of a transitory nature to this, which is, people are coming, going, they're only there for a few minutes and they're revving up their engines. So how can we as residents deal with this? What's the solution to this?
It's in the V&T code, the Vehicle Traffic Code, so it's a violation of law.
Well, I can't.
It's
should I make a
enforced. Well, no,
citizen's arrest or
it's
something?
not enforceable by you. It's enforceable by the local police department.
So
If they hear the vehicle with an altered exhaust or a modified exhaust system, they can pull that car over.
They
and
have to hear it.
Yes, and then they issue a summons for modified exhaust on that car.
So we just have to hope that they happen to be there.
You can call if you have somebody on your block that has a car with a modified exhaust and it's chronic, it's every day you're hearing it. Certainly, you could call the PD and report that.
Yeah,
and they would.
Okay, yeah, because last year, for example, I mean, I was reminded of this particular car today, and they haven't been as frequent this season, this spring-summer season. But last year, for example, every day you could hear them coming down the street, and as they park, they rev up their engine, sometimes quite loud, and then a few hours later, when they leave, they rev up their engine, and then they go racing down the road. So, and that's just the tip of it. I mean, that's one particular repeat offender. Certainly where I live, there's just a lot of motorcycles that they're revving their engines all the time. All right, so thank you.
See, they think it's cool. They like it, hearing that noise, but to us, it's aggravating. It's annoying.
Well, sure, and I think, certainly on my block where it's residential and commercial, so it's a challenge there. But also, for example, if you're enjoying the Swan Cove Park, people are going to be hearing noise as well, I think, just because I've sat in the park, the Chamber Park, and certainly, hear lots of engines roaring by. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, one other point. So I read in the Putnam Examiner today, some municipalities are considering banning gas-powered leaf blowers. Maybe that's a thought, and they're switching, I guess, over to electric. So certainly the environmental aspect is nice, but also gas-powered leaf blowers are very loud, and so this is a constant thing that's happening in neighborhoods all the time. Something to consider. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else here for the public hearing on the amendments to the noise ordinance? Come on up at this time, if there is. Okay, there being none, I need a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
So moved by Councilwoman McDonough, seconded by Councilman Shannell. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now, Board, you the same as we did on the first public hearing. 2A is to consider a resolution making a secret determination in regard to the proposed local law number 2 of the year 2021, enacting Chapter 140 of the Code of the Town of Carmel entitled Noise. So, Councilman Shannell, would you read 2A, please?
Resolution making C-Court determination in regard local law number 2 of 2021, Town of Carmel, Town Code Chapter 104. Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel hereby determines that the amendment of Chapter 104 of the Town Code entitled Noise is a Type 2 action under C-Court, and no further review is necessary. I offer this resolution as read.
Okay, offered by Councilman Shannell, seconded by Councilwoman McDonough. Roll call vote.
Councilman Shannell?
Yes.
Councilman Borelli is not at his seat?
No,
Still absent?
yes, he had to leave. He had an issue he had to take care of.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
And Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried. Okay, same as public hearing number 1. I need a motion to consider enacting the local law
As
noticed and published. As noticed and published.
Yep, that's what I said.
Okay, all right.
Annie wrote it down.
All right, second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Shannell. Roll call vote.
Councilman Shannell?
Yes.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Okay, we have one other resolution that we have to act on tonight, Board. That's resolution number 3, and it's a resolution authorizing submission of a grant application, a New York State Consolidated Funding Application, also known as the CFA. Councilwoman McDonough, would you read Resolution 3?
Sure, whereas New York State is accepting applications for the 2021 funding round of the New York State Consolidated Funding Application CFA program, Now therefore be it resolved by the town board of the town of by the town board that the town supervisor is hereby authorized to submit a consolidated funding application for the 2021 funding round from New York State for programs including, but not limited to, the Office of Parks and Recreation and Historic Preservation's Environmental Protection Fund grants, programs for parks, preservation, and heritage, Department of Environmental Conservation's Water Quality Improvement Project Program, and Department of State's Local Waterfront Revitalization Program. And upon approval of said request to enter into and execute a project agreement with the state for such financial assistance to the town of Carmel. And be further resolved, the aforementioned potential grant agreements are subject to the approval of the town attorney as to form and content. And be further resolved, the town supervisor, Kenneth Schmidt, is hereby authorized to execute any and all necessary documentation required in connection with submission of the grant application authorized herein. And be it further resolved that the town board of the town of Carmel hereby determines that the submission of the grant application authorized hereunder is a type 2 action under seeker and no further review is necessary. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Okay, offered by Councilwoman McDonough, seconded by Councilman Shannell. Roll call vote.
Yes.
Councilman Shannell says yes. Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
And Supervisor
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Okay, so that concludes the public hearings and the one resolution authorization for tonight's town board voting meeting. Before we move on, is there any members of the public that would like to come up and address the board on any of the agenda items that we just acted on this evening? If there are, come on up at this time. Scott?
Hi again. Scott Ring from Hopac. So, the vote's already done, but I have a question. There was a lot of unknowns. That was the main reason I think that, at least for the both of you, did you call the cannabis agency, the state agency, and ask for answers on any of these questions?
I have done a ton of research, even out in out west Denver, out in Colorado. I know people that live out there that's gone through it, as well as New York State, as well as areas here.
No, but I mean, you had specific
Yes.
questions. Did you call the cannabis?
Yes, we contacted, and they have no answers.
Is there
I could put it this way, they gave me no answers. If somebody else can get through to them and they get answers, I would love to
Did you get
hear.
through to, I'm not like questioning, I'm really just trying
Yes,
to.
yes.
You got through to them and they didn't have
They
answers?
do not have any answers at this time that they were able to provide me. Yeah, so what I did, Scott, is I just went on their website after they weren't able to and just pulled up any information that I could from them and read through it and did my own research, which again is not much.
Did you
I mean,
call?
it's there.
Did you call?
No, I didn't call them. I read the stuff that they had on the website. As far as I know, they don't even have a committee put together yet. So how are they going to have answers if they don't have a committee put together?
Well, we'd find out if we called. Maybe they do.
There's no committee.
It just seems like,
Yeah.
you may be
And
right.
I've also
It wouldn't be the first
spoken-
time New York
I-
State was, deficient in something, but
Yeah,
it just
and
seems to not have a lot of answers and not done everything
And
to
I've
get the
also
answers before the
spoken
vote.
with assemblymen as well. Yeah, I 99.99% of the time before I vote on something, I do my homework.
So
good, bad, or
the
indifference.
Office of Cannabis Management was created on March 31st. You're saying they don't have any contact yet?
No, they're not staffed.
There's no staff at all?
It's not staffed yet. Not at all.
Not fully staffed or not staffed at all? Okay, I'll see. I'll because I would like the answers too, and it's too late for the vote.
We would all like.
Well, they have an
further
email and a
answers.
phone number, so I would think that if they have an email and a phone number, that means they would have somebody answering the emails or the phone. That's just my issue with not having enough answers. Is it seems like
Well,
there's.
there's still, at the state level, there's still a lot of people working at home from COVID.
No, I understand.
try to get in
Listen, I deal with the
contact
state
with some-
taxation agency
Yeah.
every day. It's terrible, but
But I also like preparedness. I'm a conservative liberal, if that makes any sense. So
Sure.
I'm not against anything in particular, but I want to do my homework and I want to make sure. that we're
100%. I'm not
prepared.
questioning either of you
And
guys.
I don't think the town's prepared. We don't have any type of committee or oversight to see what we're going to do if we did decide to opt in. Things have to be in place.
Is there any plan? I'm not trying to cut you off. Is there any plan to get a committee started in case there's a referendum? Or are we going to
We're
wait?
going to have to talk about it, yeah.
Because we won't know until the first week of September, right? If there's even a
Right.
petition.
Right.
There's not a lot of time.
have to be
September
prepared for
2nd.
it.
Right before Labor Day. All right,
Absolutely.
that's it.
That's the deadline. If there's a petition.
Right, well, I would think if the petitions are handed in and they pass scrutiny, you just want to get a committee started before the vote in November.
Right.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, is there anyone else on agenda items that we just covered? Okay. All right, so I need a motion to close the special voting meeting. So moved. So moved
Second.
by Councilwoman McDonough, seconded by Councilman Shannell. All those in favor? Aye. Aye? Bob? This is- Aye. Okay. All right.
Aye.
So I need a motion to open the work session. So moved by Councilwoman McDonough,
Second.
seconded by Councilman Shannell. All those in favor? Aye. Good night. Good night, Scott. Good night, Scott. Good night, Ann. Okay, so the town board work session is now open. The first item is review of the town board minutes of June 9th, 16th, and 30th, 2021. Does any town board members have any comments on those minutes? If not, we're going to move on. Okay, so the first item on the agenda, this is our agenda item work session list for tonight, and there's 13 items on the agenda. First item, Alan Cassay. Alan? Alan's right over here, of PKF O'Connor Davies, presentation of comprehensive annual financial report year-end 2020. Alan, welcome.
Thank you,
being
Supervisor
here.
Schmidt. My pleasure. Tonight I'm going to go over the December 31st, 2020 results of your audit. Okay, so we're going to look at the fund balance, the general fund retrospective, the general fund budget to actual, and then the revenues and expenditures for the general fund, the other town funds, and then some closing points. So the audit results, everything that's within this PowerPoint is also within the financial statements you've all received. This, what we're looking at here, is a synopsis of the independent auditor's report. It's on pages 1 through 3 of the financial statements. And basically it says that we completed our audit of 2020 and in accordance with auditing standards generally accepted in the United States of America. And the objective of the audit was to obtain reasonable rather than absolute assurance that the financial statements were free of material misstatement. Our opinion is an unmodified opinion. It's also known as a clean opinion, and it's the best opinion you could receive. This is just a synopsis of the general fund balance from 2017 through 2020, and these are the various categories that make up your fund balance. You have non-spendable, which is prepaid expenditures. Restricted, you have $200,000 in restricted for retirement expense, and $1.8 million for the employee benefit accrued liability. You have certain monies put aside which are committed, that were committed by the board. One is for future budgets to soften the tax effect, $2 million for future capital projects, $150,000 for vehicle purchases, and $825,000 for vehicle, various improvements throughout the town. The assigned, you have purchases on order, which are known as encumbrances. Basically, those are purchases issued prior to the end of the year for which you haven't received the goods or services. And you're taking $110,000 out of the fund balance and using it to balance the 21 budget. And also, you've put aside $1,070,000 for possible tax certiorari expenses. And then you have your unassigned fund balance, which at the end of 2020, there's a typo on this page. The actual number is $3,512,000, and that represents 17% of the 2021 budget. So you're well within the state controller's guidelines. Okay, this is a summary of the general fund revenue budget. The details on this are on pages 67 through 69. And of course, going left to right, you have the original budget, the final budget, the actual results, and then the variance with the final budget. So for your revenues, you had a positive variance of $167,000. On the expenditures, you had a positive variance of $2,879,000. So overall, from operations, your excess of revenues over expenditures were $2.6 million. Then you had other financing sources, which were all transfers out. And you can see on the bottom that the transfers out went to the highway fund, the garbage fund, the capital projects fund, and debt service. Okay? So at the end, you had a net change in fund balance of almost $713,000. And that's despite the certain shortfalls in revenues and pluses in expenses due to COVID. We'll get to that next. So if you take the $712,000, add it to the fund balance at the beginning of the year of $9,874,000, you ended the year with a total fund balance of $10,587,000. All right, this is a more detailed analysis of the general fund. I'll just go over some of the variances. If you see in departmental income, there was a negative variance of $211,000. That was from park and rec fees directly related to COVID. The use of money and property, there was a shortfall, and that's just due to the interest rates. On the state aid, you had a positive variance of almost $402,000, and that was due to the mortgage tax. When COVID hit, several people were leaving New York City, and they were moving to the suburbs. So the real estate market did very well, and the houses, obviously, they were selling very well. So overall on the revenues, as I said before, you had a positive variance of $167,000. And despite COVID, that number is comparable to the revenues from the prior year of $176,000. Next, we have the general fund budget to actual expenditures. And again, you had a positive variance of $2,879,000. $1.1 million came from general government support, and that was spread through all the various functions. The contingency alone had a positive variance of $275,000, which means that when you adopted the budget, you put $370,000 in contingency, but you only spent a small portion of that, and you were able to save $275,000. The public safety, there was an increase, a positive variance of $957,000, and the culture and rec had a positive variance of $674,000, and again, that was directly related to COVID in the parks and rec. And here's a summary of the other towns, and this information can all be found on pages 19 through 20 in the financial statement. As you can see, all the funds have a positive fund balance except for capital. In the capital projects fund, you have issued short-term debt known as bond anticipation notes, as opposed to a general obligation bond. When you issue a bond, you get the revenue immediately. When you issue a band, the revenue is each year as you pay down the band. So you have a deficit in the capital projects fund of $3.7 million, but you have $9.7 million in bands outstanding. So when that $9.7 million is paid off, that deficit will result in a positive fund balance. And I also detailed on the bottom all the special districts. As you can see, they're all positive fund balances. And the fire protection has a positive fund balance of $7.7 million, and that's because the service award programs are incorporated into that, and they make up most of the investments. As a result, the 7.7 fund balance. Okay. And just to close, again, we issued an unmodified opinion, and the town has received a certificate of achievement in excellence for reporting 28 consecutive years. You submitted the 2020 report for your 29th consecutive year, which is quite an achievement because there aren't many municipalities in the state of New York who can lay claim to that. So you should all, the board, the finance department, should be very proud of that accomplishment.
We are. We're extremely proud of that, Alan.
In addition, another kudos is you maintain your AA1 rating from Moody's. And basically what a AA1 rating means, according to Moody's, an obliger has a very strong capacity to meet its financial commitments. So the town did very well this year, despite COVID. You weathered the storm. It looks like things are getting back to normal. So hopefully that will be reflected in your finances as they go forward. Okay? I would just like to say that the audit, despite being done remotely, it was a bit challenging, but Mary Ann and her staff provided us with all the information timely, and we were able to do the audit without any issues at all. So there is something to be said for technology.
There is, yeah. Alan, just to sum it up, this was an excellent report for the financials for the town of Carmel.
Yes, it was.
And I'm very proud of that, and I'm proud of my town controller, Mary Ann Maxwell, and her staff in her office. They do an excellent job watching the great, excellent stewards for the taxpayers' finances and taxpayer money. And we're in really good shape. Because of that, the town is in very fiscally responsible condition, and financially we're probably where we'd like to be, or maybe even beyond our expectations. We've done so well over the years. You know, we came out of a tough economic recession, and we've recovered from that very well. And that's a testament to what we do here from a fiscal standpoint. And Mary Ann, once again, you do an excellent job. Congratulations, and we appreciate your hard work and efforts. Thanks, Mary.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Alan, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Alan.
For the report. We appreciate that.
It's always good bringing good news.
Yeah, always good news. Yep. Okay, so that completes agenda item number 1. Agenda item number 2 and 3 is Mary Ann. 4 is Mary Ann also. So Mary Ann, number 2 is to consider request to authorize emergency transfer of monies from Carmel Sewer District number 4 Repair Reserve Fund for $47,850.
Yes, we've had some issues with Carmel Sewer District number 4. Back in 2018, the fund balance in Sewer District number 4 was over $300,000, close to $356,000. And when we closed 2021, the fund balance, unreserved fund balance, is only $15,000. So there's been some issues in that district. I've been working with, is Rich here? I'm not sure if Rich is here.
Yes,
Rich is here,
Rich is
yeah.
out in the back.
Okay. So we met with the operators today, just to kind of touch on the issues in that district, and, you know, their Infomark is aware of it, and, you know, I guess they're going to try and work on some kind of capital project to make a long-term fix with what's going on in that district, as opposed to continuing to put Band-Aids on top of Band-Aids. But there is $91,000 in the reserve fund balance, so I'm requesting that we move $47,850 from the reserve fund balance into the operating budget to cover expenses that have kind of, you know, drained this district. What we'll have to do is pay that back in years 2022 and 23. We've done this before, you know, so the budget increase in Sewer District number 4 will be substantial next year. I'm thinking of probably about $100,000 will have to be raised in addition to what is already raised in that district. So.
Okay. Rich, I know you're back there. You don't have to come up. Can the board get a plan from you or from Infomark, probably you and Infomark, as to how these issues that were raised today with the meeting with Infomark with respect to Sewer 4?
Well, I can give you a brief summary.
What are we going to do to address that?
Right. So what's going on there is it's a lot of water is getting into the system. It's I&I. So we had done an I&I study in 2013. My predecessors had done them, performed them. Everything was okay. I think more people are living in the area. More people are putting sump pumps into the sewer. So the first thing we're going to do is work with Infomark and put a public service announcement out for that district. Go door to door, put things in an envelope. It'll be approved by the board, of course. We'll run it through you guys. But make sure that they're aware that disconnect while you can. There's a lot of streams in Secor. The other piece of the puzzle is we'll probably put out some, we're going to review and look at maybe doing some videoing of the lines to see if there's any breakage in the lines. It looks like the roads have been shifting along Lakeshore Drive. That is the low-lying area right along Secor. That could be causing the water issues. You know, we have a lot of water going into the plant, which is why we have to, you know, use some of the septic haulage and whatnot. So those are the first couple of steps that we're looking at with regards to moving forward. So.
Okay, all right.
But yeah, so it's the onus is on the homeowners as much as it's on the town. The homeowners need to disconnect. If they're connected, they need to disconnect. It's that simple. So,
Rich, do you have a timeline, or was the timeline discussed as to when you may be beginning to implement some of those?
well, the PSA will be done in the next, you know, couple months. You know, we'll get it done within, summertime. We'll get everybody to do it. We started looking at some information today. Moving forward with putting out a bid. I'd have to just look and see if that's the right course of action to go. I want to just, talk to contemporaries and peers and see what they think, and move forward with it from there.
Would that be another I&I study? Is that what we're looking at?
It might be just a videoing.
Okay.
I've also directed Infomark to make sure that they have the rain caps in every manhole, and to inspect the manholes in the district to make sure that there's not a lot of broken. Bricks, sometimes they use bricks to raise them. Those bricks will deteriorate, and that'll cause an inflow problem. So I've asked them to go look at those areas, so they're going to do that. So we're going to do some proactive walking around, boots on the ground type stuff right now, and then we'll do some of the bigger studies moving forward. So to address, Mary Ann, she indicated that we'd look at capital plans that would be looking for next year to move them forward for the bigger projects, a videoing, maybe a relining if necessary, once we figure out what actually is going on.
Okay.
But the simple stuff, the low-hanging fruit, we can go for now.
We can do that now.
And it's relatively cost-effective.
And just have Infomark let you know when they do the rain caps and the bricks and all of that. Just keep us posted, just so we know.
You got it.
We can cross that off our list that it was done.
Mm-hmm.
Got
No
it.
problem.
Thank you, Rich.
All right.
Does that work?
That works. Yep, good, perfect.
Thanks,
Thanks, Rich.
That's
I'm
what we
sorry,
discussed,
Mary Ann.
right, man?
Thanks, Rich, yep. Yep.
Sorry, Mary Ann.
That's okay. Yeah, so.
Are you finished with 2?
I am finished with 2, yes.
Okay, so go on to 3. This is consider request to authorize budget revisions for May and June of 2021.
Okay, yes. In the general fund, number 1 in the general fund, we're providing for a payout of accrued vacation time of $2,616. Number 2 in the general fund, we're transferring for the purchase of brackets to hang the veterans banners. $5,300 is coming from the contingent line into the unclassified expenditure line. Number 3 in the general fund, we're transferring for the mortgage tax salary adjustments per the employee handbook and union contracts. So we're transferring $10,000 from the contingent line into various salary lines because of the adjustment in the mortgage tax revenue increase per the contracts. I think the board is all aware of what that entails. So $10,000 will basically split between everyone in the general fund in their salaries. All employees, all full-time employees got a 0.25% increase in their salary, and that was contractual. Number 5 in the general fund, we're transferring approximately $30,000 in miscellaneous recreation expenses within the recreation budget. On page 2, number 6, we're transferring a total of $10,700 for the e-waste and shredding events to cover the recycling overtime and the recycling trash disposal. Number 7, in the general fund, we're providing for the waste wood processing and removal from anticipated revenue from FEMA. And this is back to Tropical Storm Isaias. The Highway Department had to, do the waste wood processing, and that should be covered by FEMA. That will be covered by FEMA. Number 8, we're transferring $3,600 for downtown revitalization engineering expense. In the highway fund, we're providing for the highway project costs from CHIPS funding. $324,000 was reinstated from the state for CHIPS funding. Number 10, we're transferring for the mortgage tax salary adjustment in the highway fund, a total of $4,700. In Water District number 2, we're transferring $7,500 for the purchase of equipment. Water District number 3, we're transferring $15,000 for emergency purchases of water. In Water District number 6, we're providing for the emergency repairs from an insurance claim of $1,678. Water District number 7, we're providing and transferring for emergency repairs, a total of $21,000, and $10,000 of that is coming from the fund balance. Water District number 8, we're transferring $10,000 for emergency repairs. Water District number 14, we're providing for the equipment and emergency repairs in that district from an insurance claim. And then Carmel Sewer District number 4, as I discussed, we're providing and transferring for the emergency services from the appropriated repair reserve fund. So $77,850 is going into the contractual expense line, $30,000 is coming from the equipment line, and the $47,850, as I discussed before, is coming from the repair reserve fund balance. In the microfiltration contractual expense, we're transferring $17,000 into that line, and that's coming from the contingency and repair reserve fund. In the Carmel Sewer District number 7, we're transferring $2,000 for contractual expenses, and Sewer District number 8, $2,500 for contractual expenses. In the capital projects, the drainage capital project, we're recording the 2021 capital authorization of $200,000. In the highway resurfacing capital project, we're recording $750,000 for capital authorization. In the Lake Cassie and the Tea Kettle Park District, the recorded 21 capital authorization was $70,400 for Lake Cassie and $72,800 for Tea Kettle. And this is all funds that will be borrowed in future borrowings. So this is just authorizing the issuance of the borrowing. In Carmel Water District capital projects, we're providing for the capital projects costs from approved borrowing. $2,696,000 is for the water treatment plant. That's the project engineering for the water treatment plant. And then $3,152,200 is the capital improvement for the water main relining. So those were all approved, so this is just authorizing the funding. Okay?
Okay. Board, any questions for Mary Ann on this item? Mary Ann? All right. Next, Mary Ann, hold on.
Okay.
I'll get there. Okay. 4 is consider request to authorize requests for proposals for LoSAP, Length of Service Award Program, services for Carmel Fire Protection Districts 1 and 2.
Back in 2016, we issued an RFP that was awarded to Glens Falls. This is for the investment services. This is not PenFlex. This is not the management of the LoSAP program. This is actually the investment services. So back in 2016, the board authorized me to issue the RFP. We got, I think, 6 or 7 responses. So I'm anticipating to send out another 6 or 7 RFPs, and then once I get those back, we'll bring them to the board. We'll take a look at them. PenFlex will help review them, and then we'll see what the best investment proposal will be for the LoSAP investments for Fire District number 1 and 2, Mahopac Falls and Mahopac. So like I said, last time we awarded it to Glens Falls. I think prior to that, we had it with RBC.
Yeah.
So Glens Falls has done very well. The investments have done very well. We've done very well with them. So I'm sure they will submit an RFP as well. But
it's for 5 years, Marion?
This one was for 5 years, so that's what I'm looking to do again.
5 years.
So if this is approved next week, I'll send the RFPs out to the 6 or 7 that investment, companies that I have contact, that PenFlex will recommend as well. And then we're going to ask for them to submit questions by August 11th, and then submission due date would be September 8th, and then the board would vote on it sometime in October. Because it will take some time to review the RFPs and
you have a list of vendors you're going to be sending it out to?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I don't have that in here.
I think
I have that. I have a folder, but yes, I do.
Glens Falls is going to be one of them.
Glens Falls is one of them. I think Wells Fargo was one, RBC, Wealth Management. I think Morgan Stanley was one we sent it to last time. So there's a handful.
Some good investment companies there.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah. So.
All right, good. All right. Any questions for Mary Ann on this? Susie? No? All right, Mary Ann, thank you. So you're all set.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So, Mary Ann, you could take off. Is there anybody here that's going to have any questions for the comptroller on the items that she covered just now? Yes, no? Okay, all right, you can go home.
Thank you.
Good night, Mary Ann.
Thank you.
See you, Alan, thank you. Thanks for being here, good to see you. Yeah. Okay. 5, 6, take care, Mary Ann. 5, 6, 7, 8, 5, 6, 7, and 8 are Rich Franzetti, the town engineer. Rich, 5 is to consider request to accept proposal for landscape maintenance, Town of Carmel cemeteries.
Good evening. Proposals were solicited for contractors for the cemetery maintenance. A complete list of vendors that we sent it to was attached to the memo we forwarded. Proposals were received from Kiko's Landscape and Colonial Landscape. Kiko's was the lowest overall over a 5-year period, $75,975 versus $95,232. Kiko's Landscaping has adequately serviced the cemetery since 2014, and based on the above, we recommend the contract be awarded to Kiko's for years 22, 23, and 24, and then the board at its discretion will have the unilateral option to extend it in 25 and 26. This work is set to begin in 2022. The department will work with the Comptroller's Office on appropriate budget going forward. So this was just a proactive getting budgets, planning for 2022 and forward. Contract ends at the end of this year.
Okay. All right, great. Thanks, Rich. Any questions, comments, concerns for the engineer on this item?
And Kenny, just, could you, Supervisor, I'm sorry, could you just, I think there's 14 cemeteries is that we maintain?
There are.
Is this 14? So there's 14 cemeteries that are maintained throughout. That's why the numbers are high. They do weekly maintenance on those cemeteries.
And I just want to state that Kiko's Landscaping does an excellent job maintaining the cemeteries. They've looked very, very nice since they took them over years ago. So no complaints. And a lot of these cemeteries are very, very old historic cemeteries, and they do a great job maintaining them.
They have.
So I'm fine with Kiko's. Okay, next, Rich, number 6. Consider request to reject all bids and authorize advertisement for bids for Carmel Water District Number 9 water tank building and concrete repairs.
So this is contract C-269. On June 3rd, 2021, bids were opened by the town clerk. Bid opening results were attached to the memo. The scope of the work involved complete removal and replacement of the existing structure surrounding Carmel Water District 9 tank and masonry repairs. Of the 2 prospective contractors in attendance at the mandatory pre-bid meeting, only one submitted a bid, and it was National Installation and GC Corporation in the amount of $125,000. Weston and Sampson performed an analysis of the apparent low bidder's costs. The single bid was higher than the engineering's estimate of $116,416, which is about 7.3% higher. The board should note that the scope of work changed since the estimate, turning the project into a full building rehabilitation. In addition, over the past few months, the cost of labor and materials, cost of materials and labor, lumber in particular, has skyrocketed. The bond amount was not adjusted accordingly due to the volatility of the construction market, and it was decided that to raise the bond amount if the pricing for the work was determined to be reasonable at the time of the receipt of bids. So we figured that we'd see how high it came in. For those reasons, the bid received exceeded the bond amount of $40,184, which was included Weston and Sampson's consulting services cost. So based on the evaluation of the bids, we recommend that this bid be rejected because of insufficient funds. In addition, we recommend that the board authorize to rebid the project and consider increasing the budget amount to accommodate market costs.
Okay.
So the current analysis of how much it should cost is $116,400, or that was?
Yeah. So just to pull this all back, we went and bonded this about a year and a half ago, or maybe a year ago, and we bonded it. It was just going to be the roof, but as the project morphed, it morphed into getting rid of the, replacing the entire structure around it because it was found to be deficient, or not deficient enough that it's going to fall, but enough where once you did the roof, you might as well do the walls too. and also some masonry work that needed to be done along the building to make it a whole. We did not come back and ask for the bonding to be increased at that point in time. We figured we'd go out to bid, see what the cost came in at. They were guessing it at 116 or estimating it at 116 at the back end of it, not at the front end of it. So after we went, we had all the plans and specs pulled together. They estimated at about 116,000. The number came in higher. So part of it was, we had that escalation in costs that have been going crazy. We figured we'd let the market cool down a little bit, put this out to bid. Another reason is that we had it as a mandatory bid meeting. We will not have that next time. We'll open it up so people can bid if they don't come to a mandatory meeting. So that's why we'll just reject these bids, if that's okay with the board.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. Thanks, Rich. Okay, next number.
Excuse me, Mr. Supervisor. So, and also, so this is going to go with the next one also, I think it's 268, but we're going to be requesting that bonding be increased for this project.
Right.
And we're going to have to go out, but that's, well, I'm jumping ahead of myself, but that's something we're going to ask for.
So what do you think the projected cost of this project will be?
Well, knowing what we had come in at, we'll probably ask for that bonding to be at that number. We don't have to use the number. We could probably come in higher, have a higher bonding amount than that, see what the number comes in at. If it comes in less, which we hope it does, then we don't spend all that money. We just, we use what we spend.
We have to have the borrowing and money in place before we go out to
Correct.
bid the project.
Correct.
So when are we going to be doing that? When do you request that we?
When's our next meeting? No.
Next meeting is the 21st, is the next voting meeting. And then we don't meet after that.
Was speaking to bond counsel. As long as I have some reasonably definitive numbers, I can go back to bond counsel and ask them to draft bond resolutions for your next meeting to authorize the additional borrowings.
Okay.
And they have an estoppel period, so
Right.
if you pass those, and it's presuming there's no public hearing needed.
Right.
And if you pass them, then in about 30 days, you can go back out to bid, more or less.
Okay, so what are we going to, how much are we going to have to increase the borrowing by, Rich?
I'm waiting for
Well,
Weston and Sampson to get
okay.
back to me. I have some numbers for the next project, but not for Water 9
Not
yet.
for Water
But
9.
Water 9, we know that it's at 40,000.
Right.
We know it's coming in at 125, so we probably increase it 100,000 to make it 140, right? So, but we'll get that to Greg to get the bond counsel, and we'll go forward. But Greg, and you can tell me if I'm wrong on this, this would have to maybe go to public hearing because it's not professional services, is that?
That's why I brought that up. There's a possibility that they would have to have an order calling a public hearing first. Okay, and that would take a couple weeks, and then the bond resolution wouldn't be able to be passed till that was closed. And then there's an estoppel period after that.
What's the length of the estoppel period?
I think 20 days from the notice of publication of the bond being passed. So it's about 30 days. By the time you pass it, it hits the paper paper's about a week later, and then you have 20 days from there.
All right.
So, rule of thumb is a month.
A month, okay. All right.
So we'll get this to Greg, by the end of this week. Hopefully we get in touch with bond counsel, maybe something can be on next week's agenda, and then we can start moving
And you'll
forward.
take care of the bond counsel then?
And I'll loop the controller
Okay.
and your office in
Am I
on
in?
that.
All right, great, thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Greg.
All right, Rich, go on to number 7 then. Consider request to authorize out-of-district water connection. Tax map 75.3-3-17. This is Carmel Water District number 9.
Just so the board knows, this is not a request to allow them to come in. It is a request to start the process to allow them to come in. So just, you're not giving, when you vote on this, it is not to say, hey, they're allowed to come in. It's to say you're okay with us moving forward with them starting the process, okay? So we received a request for an out-of-district connection for a property located 82 Westlake. It involves water connection into the Mahopac Hills Simone Water District 9 for an existing site that contains a residential use and is currently on a well. This department requested a controller's office determination of the back capital costs, taxes for the property, and they came out to $6,270 up until 2021. And a water consumption rate at that water district is $8.75 per 1,000 gallons. So the department performed a preliminary capacity assessment for the proposed out-of-district connection, and as provided in the attached, found that there is sufficient capacity to allow this home to be connected into the district. We advised the applicant of the back capital cost and provided them with the attached correspondence, which provides all the steps that they need to complete in order to move forward. Part of that request is getting approval from the board that they are allowed to move forward with this request. So they will be required to provide a technical report for review, and they will have to pay all associated fees to connect into the water district. So that's what we're asking, just to move forward with this.
Okay. All right, any questions, Susie, Bob, on this one? Yeah, we probably have 10 or 12 out-of-district users.
Okay.
So this is starting the process of a homeowner on Westlake Boulevard that would like to, who's out of the district, would like to connect in the district. So we would approve an out-of-district water use for that resident. But this is starting the process. So Greg, at next week's voting meeting, are you going to have, what type of resolution are you going to have for this? Is there going to be a resolution?
If the board's ready, it'll be a resolution approving an out-of-district connection, subject to, first thing is the payment of all back capital fees, issuance of any necessary approvals, other than, I'm not sure if there's anything other than the town's permit here. If needed, is the health department involved, and obviously the tender of an out-of-district agreement that we have in form, that the applicant would then submit with the approvals, the tap fee, the back capital, and then for the supervisor's signature, if in fact you do that. I don't know if you need more information on this particular.
Greg, that's the next step. This step is just saying, hey, we're okay to move forward with this. So I did a preliminary capacity analysis, and if the board, so I think this stems back, and I'm sorry to be long-winded tonight, but this stems back to prior things that we've had issues with, and I came to the board and said, hey, we're going to approve this particular thing, it's connected in, and I was told by the board, past board, no, we didn't know about this. We want to know about this. You shouldn't have done that. You're not allowed to move forward without the commissioners, the board, knowing that this is the case. So I'm advising the commissioners at this point in time. As the superintendent, I'm advising the commissioners that this is a process we're going to move forward. So I don't know if I need approval.
So we don't need a resolution then.
So, all right, so maybe this is,
When you're taking action.
right.
You're being notified now.
Okay.
So I apologize then if this confused everybody who's watching and everybody in the audience and the
No,
board.
it's good for communication. Just a quick question. So the vacant properties that are there, you did your analysis that if they were built out, there's still enough gallons per day?
Correct.
Perfect.
I
That's all
put them, I
needed
think,
to
at
know.
4 bedrooms, which may be almost unheard of, but so.
There's one property, one building going up.
Yeah, there's already a building on this particular out-of-district connection, so.
Yeah. And then there's vacant ones.
No, you said properties, I thought it was more than one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there is more than one vacant property
The applicant's going to give you a technical report from the PE.
that can be built on.
I'm sorry, what's that?
That's
The
what I was
applicant's
asking.
going to give you a
Yeah.
technical report from the PE. Is that what's referenced?
Yes, right.
So
So
then-
I
so
think
you
once
had
all that
report,
comes in,
And Rich reports back on it, you wouldn't
Yeah.
do anything.
Okay.
I jumped the gun.
All right, so you let us know, Rich, when the applicant wants to move forward with that. You know, providing everything is,
as long as the board as commissioners is okay with
The inquiry.
us moving forward, then I'll advise them that you are okay with it, even though you don't have to put a resolution forth, and then we can go from there.
I'm fine with it. The board, you
How
guys are
much does
fine
it
with
cost the town?
Huh?
How much does it cost the town to? set
Other
it
than
up?
the time we've just spent
Just
here
our
doing
time.
this.
That's it.
And Rich's review
All the
time.
cost is borne by the applicant, any other cost. They have to pay the back capital too, Bob.
Okay.
And I think that was calculated at about $6,800,
Right.
right?
Correct. But so all the costs associated and all the permits associated with this are the responsibility of the applicant.
Okay.
It's, the onus, if you're in district, it's a different approach. If you're out of district, I don't care if you're in or not. We understand, that's disrespectful, but, it's not on us to get them in there. It's up to them to figure out how they're going to do it, if it's going to work, if they're going to have enough piping, how much, they got to run a couple hundred feet down Westlake Boulevard. They may find that it's cost prohibitive.
Once
And
they're in-
you may not see me again on this particular property.
Once they're in and there's a water break, who's responsible to fix the break?
That line becomes the town of Carmel's, I believe. No?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it becomes the town of Carmel, so.
Distribution.
And,
The homeowner's responsible for the service connection
right,
from the main, so up
So-
to the main.
so we
the
would
curb
be
box
responsible for
is ours.
repairs.
Right,
Correct.
Thank you.
yeah. All right. Okay, we good to move on? Okay, Rich, number 8, This is the consider request to award bid for townwide storage tank rehab and new tank, and you have in parentheses here glass.
So, yeah, this is all part of the larger tank project. There's glass tanks, there's steel tanks, and then there's the Water District 9 tank. We spoke about the Water District 9 tank earlier. The steel tank project has not been put out to bid. Those will be out next year. That includes the Lindy tank and the ShopRite tank in Water District 2. So we're not looking at them until next year. They're in good shape. They just need some rehabilitation. This was the driver here was to put in 2 new tanks, one at Water District 2 to replace the Everett tank. The other is at Water District 14 to get rid of the 2 tanks that are there, and to rehab our existing glass line tanks at Water District 3 in Secor and Water District 8, Crest Road and Kings Ridge. So bids were received on June 30th. The scope of work involves what I just talked about. There's some rehab in Carmel Water District 2, scheduled maintenance, a new tank in Water 2, scheduled rehab in Water 8 and 13, Water 8 and 3, and a new tank construction in Water 14. 4 sets of bid documents were picked up by bidders. 4 contractors attended the mandatory pre-bid meeting with addendums issued by Weston and Sampson. They performed an analysis on the apparent low bidder's cost, and a copy of the assessment is provided in the attached. 2 contractors, Arold and Aventis, submitted bids, and it ended up that Arold was the cheapest overall. Pricing for Carmel Water District 2 was $1.1 million, $332,000 for Carmel Water 3, $688,000 for Carmel Water 8, $481,000 for Carmel Water District 14. The problem with that is that those numbers came in higher than what was actually bonded for it. Again, this is a direct reflection of what's going on in the industry right now. So, for instance, in Carmel Water District 3, after looking at what the engineering costs and what we bonded, we're short $66,000. We're short $250,000 in Carmel Water District 8, $114,000 in Carmel Water District 14. The table that's provided to you also shows that we have a balance, a positive balance for Carmel Water District 2, but the board should note that that goes back to the 2 steel tanks that need rehabbing, and we don't know what that price will come in next year for the rehab, so we can move forward with 2 if we wanted to, but we're not going to. We probably will increase some of the bonding in there to make sure that that works. So,
Rich, so the 2 steel tanks that we're not doing this year, just give me the locations of them again.
Lindy Road and behind ShopRite up at Clapboard Ridge.
Oh, Clapboard Ridge, okay. Lindy and Clapboard Ridge.
Yes,
those
sir.
tanks are in fairly good shape?
Yes, they just need, all the tanks, except for the ones we're putting in new, need pretty much the same thing. Rehabs are going to put mixers on the bottom. They're going to put different safety issues, different OSHA-regulated things that were all found when Pitt Tank did their inspections a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So what about the Everett water tank?
The Everett water tank's being replaced completely. That's still going on. So what's being recommended here tonight is, while we have sufficient bonding in Water 2, we're going to recommend that Arrow Construction be the contractor to do the work. However, due to lack of funding for all the districts except for 2, we recommend the town of Carmel increase their bonds for water districts 2, 3, 8, and 14.
Same thing.
Yeah. So we're going to have, so that's the same thing. Greg's going to have to be given numbers. We're going to go through that process. We spoke to Arrow Construction. We had 90 days to have the contract awarded. Mm-hmm. They've agreed to make it 120 days so we can cover the fact that we'd be getting additional funding. So, so we're going to have this whole bonding increase for this project.
So the Water 2 tank, the Everett Road tank, that we can move forward with that one?
But we're not going to, because we're not going to award Arrow Construction just one project
just
as a,
for one.
versus. Right.
So one is, I hear that tank's in pretty bad shape. Is that true or no?
It's not, it's in bad shape, but it's not, hopefully not going anywhere anytime in the future. It's been around. We'll get a new tank up there. It's going to stay in service the entire time that we put the new tank in. So it's, that should be by the end of the year if we get this done. Unfortunately, since we're moving this 120 days forward, hopefully the work gets done this year. If not, it'll be pushed into next year. So that's the issue. So.
Okay. All right. All right. Any further questions or comments for Rich on number 8? Okay. Thanks, Rich.
Is it okay if I leave?
Yeah, I just want you to stick around for, John, are you going to need Rich here for any part of yours? Renzetti?
He's not.
No.
So the grant.
Okay. All right. So number 9, Lieutenant John Dearman, Carmel PD, consider request to advertise for bids for network access control systems in regards to the infrastructure grant project of $50,000 grant award. John, take it away.
As you know, we received a $50,000 infrastructure grant to improve security for Town Hall and the Police Department. A rough estimate I got during the grant writing process was about $29,000. And after we received the grant, I started looking around and probably would like to add more access system to more doors in the interior of Town Hall. I'm guessing it's going to go over $35,000, and I believe per the procurement policy, we're going to have to go out to bid on the project. And I would like the board's approval to put it out.
Okay. Yep. All right. I have no problem with that. Bob, Susie?
Yeah, just a question. The original grant was for 50,000, and it's going to exceed it by another 35,000?
No. It's going to be at least 35,000.
Okay. So you're still under budget with that?
Roughly. I had one company come in during the grant writing process and just gave me a quick rough numbers so we could throw them on the grant application.
Okay.
So that was at about 29,000 roughly. I looked around at some more of the building that I'd like to improve security-wise. So that's at least probably going to put us at 35,000 out of the 50,000. So at that point, we have to go out to bid.
That's fine.
We'll spend as much of the 50,000 as we can.
Spend it all,
Sounds good, yeah.
if we can.
Yeah, we'll make whatever
And if,
progress we need.
listen, if it exceeds the 50,000, then the board could consider, authorizing the additional funding. Because what John has identified is needs to be upgraded and improved. I recommend that you do it.
Yeah.
Even if it does exceed the 50. It won't be by, not by much. I don't believe it's going to, but if it does, we can, there's funding in the building maintenance line that we can use for that.
Okay.
For the additional costs.
Yeah, because some doors will be able to stay as is and only need electric strikers, I believe the company called it. Other doors, like the supervisor's office, would have to be a new, real door. The tax receiver's office may or may not have to be a real door, so I can't give you prices on that until companies come in and actually look at it. And something that wasn't covered in the grant, but that I would like to do, was the cement ballards out here along the sidewalk to prevent a vehicle
We want to
ramming.
put bollards out here
That's what I was going to ask.
in front of these doors.
Right.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, because
Someone can drive through.
somebody could drive through. Yeah. All right. Yeah, we should include that in the whole.
So when you guys authorize it, I already spoke to Rich about having them help me write up the bid so we can send it out.
Okay.
Security hardening. so to
What's that?
speak. Security
Harden,
hardening.
yeah. Hardening the building, yeah.
Thanks, John.
Good. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, next, number 10, Mike Carnazzi's not here, so I'll handle this one for Mike. This is to consider request to accept proposal for property cleanup per the property maintenance law, 105 Longdale Road, Mayapack. Board, 105 Longdale Road in Lake Cassie was cleaned up last year under the property maintenance law. The grass is now over a foot high, and I've been getting complaints from the neighbors. I requested 3 bids from local landscapers and got the low bid, $135.48 from Kiko Landscaping. I'd like to get this on the next available agenda to get this mowed and cleaned up if possible. It seems like the property is going to be a problem as there's issues with the homeowners, that it seems that this property is going to be continue to be a maintenance issue. Yeah, I don't want to mention what's going on, but there were some issues there, so.
Okay.
All right? 135.48 is a good number to clean that up. Greg, you'll have a resolution for that? Where are you? Okay. All right, any questions on this?
No.
All right, 11, Putnam County Housing Corp., consider request for authorizing resolution in support of the application, New York State Affordable Housing Corporation for $200,000. This is for home improvement grant application. I had an extensive conversation with the Putnam County Housing Corp. So the way this works is This is for eligible homeowners that are unable to do maintenance work to their homes. In other words, it's for failing septic systems, roofing, window replacement, electrical upgrades, plumbing systems, heating systems. You have to be eligible for funding under the $200,000 home improvement grant. And obviously, we're talking about Town of Carmel residents. So they can receive a maximum of $40,000 from the Housing Corp, but they have to demonstrate a hardship that they can't have liquid funds or any resources that they can use. They have to demonstrate that it's truly a hardship and that this work has to be done for them to live in the homes. But it's paid back, this was interesting, it's paid back over 10 years. So they have 10 years in order to pay the money back. So the money is actually refunded. So it's not a gift of funding, but it's funding that the homeowner can use.
It's a loan?
It's a loan. It's a loan, and the property is actually liened. So Putnam County Housing Corp liens the property for the amount of money that was provided to them, so they can make those improvements to the home. And it's really for essential systems in the home. It's not for aesthetic improvements like paint or anything like that. It's for the major systems that in the house, septics, as I said, electrical, plumbing, things like that. So,
Kenny, do you know how many people from Carmel
have availed themselves to this? The last time they did it, there were 10 homes. 10 homeowners. And it's as long as you don't sell your house. See, here's the thing: as long as you're in your home and you don't sell your house for 10 years, it's prorated. It goes down 10% every year. So it starts at 100%, and then every year it drops down 10% moving forward.
That's great for people in need.
She said this is very useful, and it's helped people in need. And it's a way for people to get this work done without them getting into further trouble with the home.
And obviously, there's no interest on the loan.
No, there's none.
It's nice, very good.
No, it's very nice to put. We've done this before.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to get further information from them before we, went forward with it. But it's good to do, and I think it's a great benefit for the community that the Putnam County Housing Corp does have this available.
Yeah.
All right?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So next, number 12, Mahopac Volunteer Fire Department. Consider additions, deletions to the active list of the Mahopac Fire Department. So we have correspondence here from Ed Scott, the corresponding secretary. Add the following new member: Sorengo N. Curapona from Carmel, New York. And remove the following member, has resigned from the department, Jessica Hart. So they're adding one and they're removing one. So it's a zero-sum game. I'd like to thank Jessica Hart for her service to the fire department. Since she has resigned, and she no longer be part of the department. All right, so we're good with these two members?
Yeah.
One added, one removed?
I'd like to thank Jessica also for her service. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. 13 is a letter from Carol Bailey, Enoch Crosby Chapter, National Society of Daughters of the American Revolution. This is considered a request to place bronze flag markers on patriots' graves at the Gilead Cemetery. The reason that they're requesting permission is because it's a Town of Carmel-owned cemetery, and they need permission from the town board as trustees of those cemeteries to put the bronze plaques. So I'll just read this real quick. My name is Carol Bailey. I'm a member of the Enoch Crosby Chapter of the National Society of Daughters of the American Revolution. Our chapter has been placing flags for Memorial Day for a number of years at Gilead Cemetery, where Enoch Crosby is buried. Also buried at Gilead are 12 other Revolutionary War patriots that women have used to become Daughters of the American Revolution members. There are 5 Revolutionary patriots at the SAR has received by putting a bronze flag marker next to the grave. In total, there are 31 Revolutionary patriots buried in Gilead Cemetery. At present, there are no DAR markers at the cemetery. Our chapter would like to place bronze DAR flag markers on all 13 DAR patriots' graves and have the project done by 2026 for the 250th anniversary of our country. There will be 5 bronze markers per acquisition done during the time the ground is not frozen. In order to be able to place the flag markers, we have to obtain permission from the owners of the cemetery, which is the town of Carmel. To protect the markers from being stolen, they will be buried in 6 inches of cement. We would reseed each spot where the marker was placed. I'm including the format which you may use to cover all information needed to go to the National DI office in Washington, D.C. I think it's very nice that they're doing this.
Yep.
The Daughters of the American Revolution.
Yep.
That they're placing these. So there's 31 revolutionary patriots buried in Gilead. I think they just have, I think they have the number reversed here on 1, 2, 3, and the 4th paragraph. They have 13 DAR patriots' graves, but I believe there's actually 31. So I think they have the number reversed, if I'm not mistaken. Right? You see that, guys?
It says 13, they list their names.
It says 31 and 13 on the bottom.
I'm not sure because there's 31 Revolutionary Patriots, but there's 13 Daughters of the
American Revolution.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, either,
I mean, that, it
whatever
doesn't,
number
either
it
way,
is,
it's,
yeah.
you know.
So
I
anyway-
don't, Greg, I don't think we need that number for the resolution.
No, you
right?
don't.
No. Okay, we'll just give them
Authorizing
permission.
the designations to be put on the markers.
On the
All
markers
right.
of the DAR Patriots.
I think that's very nice of the Enoch Crosby chapter.
Yep.
Of the Society of Daughters of American Revolution to do this. And it's just at the Enoch Crosby Cemetery.
If we could we recognize those patriots that they're going to be honoring? The names are Enoch Crosby, John Frost, Jacob Ganung, Reuben Ganung, Caleb Hazen, Colonel Caleb Hazen, Jeremiah Hopkins, Captain Solomon Hopkins, Amos Kniffen, Captain Samuel Kniffen, or Kniffen, Isaac Merrick, Daniel Tillotson, and Gilbert Travis. The patriots that will be
Thank you, Bob. Yep, that was nice. Okay, perfect.
awesome.
All right, this is great that they're doing it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, so that concludes the town board, pretty lengthy meeting tonight, but we covered a lot. That concludes the work session agenda items for this evening's meeting. Is there any members of the public that would like to come up in regards to any of the agenda items that we just covered? Come on up at this time. Yes?
Hello, April Daly, Mahopac. I'll be brief. So with regard to agenda item number 9, the bids for network access control systems. So I don't know if I believe, based on other agenda items from the past few months, that you have servers, like an email server. So I'm going to make the assumption right now that maybe they're in a room, maybe that room is locked, but the idea of having these under network access control would be ideal, because even if they are currently locked, having the network access control will give you a record of who is entering and exiting and has physical access to those servers. Thank you.
Yep,
100%
thank you.
right.
So that's what we're doing, 100%. Agree. Thank you. Anybody else here for the agenda? Come on up at this time. Jim? James? No? Okay. All right, so open, new business, open forum portion of the meeting? Yes, April.
April Daly, Mahopac. I know it's late, so I will be to the point. So, and I appreciate everyone's patience. It has been a long night. Very good meeting, though. All right, so with regard, I want to talk about issues that I would say that are hiding in plain sight on East Lake Boulevard. So first of all, East Lake Boulevard is a heavily traveled road, and so there's quite a bit of speeding that appears to be going on. I think that's basically people go through there basically shortcut through to get to the other end of Route 6. So for a little bit of background, this is a dense section part of the town, so it's a mix of residential and commercial zoning. So if you consider from the beginning, from the Veterans Memorial Park all the way down to the school district building, we have, for example, a bar, 2 social clubs, 2, maybe 3 multi-dwelling complexes, but 2 of them are condominium complexes, and of course we have a number of houses. There is on-street parking on East Lake Boulevard that is allowed, and that, based on my observation, it's used by all people from the bars, social clubs, as well as the multi-dwelling units and houses. So parking, residents, I believe, mostly use the parking spaces that are large enough comfortably fit their vehicles. However, I believe visitors to the area use the side of the road that often doesn't have enough room for cars, and so that results in the cars protruding into the actual road. So that creates a couple of issues. So number one is a safety issue, especially at night, because pedestrians tend to walk on the road, in terms to visit the clubs or the bar. It's also a risk for drivers, so it creates a liability for them. So the road is dark, the width is reduced by the cars protruding into the road, as well as there's pedestrians on the road. So that's really a precarious situation. First, also, there's a lot of noise on East Lake Boulevard, certainly from revving of engines and things of that nature. Okay, and I know I'm talking fast, I just want to be brief. It's been a long night. All right, so with regards to the bar doesn't have the required number of parking spaces on seats. For example, 1 parking space for each 3 seats. They have 5 in total by my count. There's another property that has parking spaces adjacent to it. People tend to think that is all part of the bar. So the zoning code does allow for additional parking if it is located within 250 feet of that location. I believe that was amended in 2006, 2007 timeframe. So they are in compliance, but however, the impact is that the streets fill first. 250 feet away, we're talking about the CVS parking lot, so, that parking lot doesn't get hit until the streets are completely filled. So another impact issue is garbage. There's, quite a bit of debris that is, along that whole corridor. And if you look at the type of debris, I think there's indications that people are drinking in cars. There's also a lot of loitering with people under the influence of alcohol at all hours of the night and well into the morning. And of course, they're loitering, they're under the influence of alcohol, so there's a lot of offensive language and shouting. It's fairly common to witness people exiting the premises of the bar with containers in their hair, and in their hand, and that, of course, results in more garbage. And I believe they have insufficient bathroom facilities and control. And so the impact of that is frequent and constant public urination throughout the neighborhood. It's often in plain sight, especially when it's very busy. It's not unusual to see a row of people relieving themselves. So it's certainly unhealthy. It's certainly disgusting. And so, I'd hope, so I don't think that the residents should have to tolerate this type of behavior. So I am asking the town to be more proactive and put an end to these practices and the impact that the residents on that block are experiencing. Thank you.
Okay. Great. Thank you. Anybody else for the open forum, new business portion of the meeting? Come on up. Yes, James? Oh, okay. All right.
Hello again. As you know, I'm James Comedy from Carmel Hamlet. To expand upon some of the foul language that is expressed in Carmel, I have noticed a disturbing trend over the past year of hate speech in our community. I noticed this first at the Black Lives Matter rallies last summer, where frequent harassments and threats were hurled against young students in front of the courthouse in the Lakeland Ida area. Also, as you might know, 2 of the domestic terrorists who rioted at the Capitol on January 6th came from the town of Carmel, and they had been radicalized here in this community using social media or other means, but reinforced by some of the rhetoric repeated often in these very auspices that we call our town. As well, during the Republican primary, some of the most vile language I've seen in years had come out in the Vote for Change campaign and against the town board, as you might recall, even against the challenger Aaron Crowley, and it was not a pleasant time to be in politics for anyone, I believe. And finally, just 2 months ago, during the Carmel School District's own Board of Ed budget vote, a resident of Kent came down from her town to verbally berate and slander members of the Carmel School Board. And this type of hate speech and vile rhetoric has violent consequences. As I mentioned, radicalized domestic terrorists have come from Carmel. This cannot be acceptable by our community or our town, and I'd like to know if the town board can do any limitations on the hateful speech of people in this community, perhaps by training police on de-escalation and intervention tactics to take when hate speech is uttered and hold against vulnerable or other residents of the town. Would there be any possibility of such trainings?
Is that de-escalation training?
De-escalation and intervention
Carmel
training.
PD is actually undergoing that training as part of the reform and reinvention that was adopted here back in, what, February, March timeframe? April 1. That was included in that. So there is training scheduled for all of our police officers in exactly what you just described. De-escalation and...
That's good.
So-
I hope intervention can also be taken so that community policing and proactive safety can be enforced as well.
Okay. Great. Thank you, James.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night. Thank you. Okay, are you a reporter, sir? Yes. You are? Who are you with?
I'm with Examiner Media.
Examiner, okay. So you don't want to come up and say anything, right? No. No? Okay.
He'll write about it tomorrow.
They are, yes. Yep. They're recorded. You can either gain access to the meeting through our website, carmelny.org, or it's on Comcast 95 or Verizon Channel 24. It's a YouTube video replay of the meetings. Okay? All right. I just want to recognize some gentlemen from up in the Hamlet of Carmel, Bob. And this is something that we probably don't give kudos enough to these gentlemen. The flower baskets along Glenada Avenue in the Hamlet of Carmel look terrific again this year.
Yep. Excellent.
We would like to thank the Brewster Carmel Garden Club for sponsoring them and to the Carmel Rotary Club for paying for them. Most of all, we would like to thank the volunteers that water, this is big, the volunteers that water and maintain them throughout the season.
At 6 a.m. in the morning.
They're there at 6 a.m. Yep. That is an enormous job. It has to be done very early in the morning before there are any cars parked on the street, like between 5 a.m. and 6 a.m. Those volunteers, I'm going to read their names off. Al Latriciano, Lou Margolis, Kathy Valletta, Rick Fagan, Mike McDonough, and Margie Keith. I want to publicly thank those ladies and gentlemen for their volunteerism in helping the Hamlet of Carmel out. If it wasn't for your efforts and you getting up at between 5 and 6 a.m. every morning to water the plants, the hanging baskets up in our beautiful Hamlet of Carmel Route 52 area, those baskets probably wouldn't be there. But if you haven't seen them yet, I know you
They're
have, Bob.
beautiful.
I have, and also
They're-
big success is the banners that they've been
Banners.
putting up.
Yep.
And the banners, yeah.
It looks beautiful, between the
It does.
flowers, the banners, and the flags.
Yeah.
It's
the
really a
Hamlet of
beautiful
Carmel
place.
looks absolutely beautiful.
Perfect.
And it's because of the volunteers up there that make that happen. You know, I'd love to do the same thing down here, but the issue we ran into was we don't have the Al Latricianos and the Marjorie Keith and all the volunteers.
But you know what, we may when we redo it down there.
Yeah.
Let's be positive.
And also a great kudos to the volunteers at St. James that have taken care of their flowers. They look absolutely gorgeous also. Good job.
You should mention the concert in the park tomorrow.
I don't have it here.
Sunset Concerts here, at Chamber Park.
Oh, do you know who it is?
Soulmates.
You know who's playing?
Soulmates.
Is it Soulmates?
Yep,
Yes.
yep,
That's
at
John,
Chamber
right?
Park, tomorrow at 7 p.m.?
7 p.m.
7
to
p.m.
9 p.m.
Chamber Park, it's free. Just come bring some food, some drinks, some blankets. Enjoy it. It's a lot of fun.
And they're a good band. Very
And they're
good.
very
They are
good
very
band.
good, yeah. Okay, all right. Next meeting is next Wednesday, the 21st of July. We'll have a town board voting meeting here, 7 p.m. So I need a motion to close. We had a long, lengthy meeting tonight.
Second.
It's 20 to 10. I'm tired. I'm sure everybody else is. It's like the old days, yeah. Did you make a motion, Bob?
So did, and I second
You
it.
second? Okay, motion made by Councilwoman McDonough, seconded by Councilman Shannon. Close the meeting. All